And say
Yeah, I mean,
publicly.
legally, I was advised to as an employer, there's only so much you can say, and so I don't want to beat around the bush. I'll just simply say I know we had to make a decision. I believe it was the right decision. People can argue that they don't think it was, but I'm sure someday more of this will come out. Some of the people that work with me or worked under him might say some things as well. But to me, it's what's happened, and more importantly, I think Ollie does a really good job.
That was John Mozeliak on with TMA. He said one day the truth will come out.
The truth will be out there.
And Alex, that day is today. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. It's BK and Ferrario here on 101 ESPN. Listen, none of us are dancing on the grave of Mike Shildt. Mike Shildt, I think, is a pretty decent manager. I think he does a, generally speaking, pretty good job. But there was a lot of secrecy surrounding his departure here in St. Louis. And a lot of that, Alex, my belief is because of the loyalty that people within the Cardinals had toward Mike Shildt. Now, you can decide for yourself whether that was necessary or earned or whatever it may be, right? But there was secrecy surrounding it in part, I believe, because people wanted Mike Shildt to get a second chance. And the stuff that you're reading today, if you have not done so just yet, the San Diego Union-Tribune had a lengthy article that posted last night on what led to what sure seems like his dismissal in San Diego in my mind.
Get your popcorn ready, folks, because it was a doozy of a read.
I don't think Mike Shildt can be a manager in Major League Baseball again. I don't think anybody's going to hire him for that job. Now, could he get a job in baseball? Sure. People have come back from far worse than this in Major League Baseball. That's for damn sure. But it started out, there was a trickle effect last night.
What's a trickle effect? Were you trying to go a trickle-down effect?
Yeah.
Did you misspeak there?
A trickle.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
from the New
We're known
York
for that as a
Post,
show.
this was the first one that I saw. Came from John Heyman. Quote, Mike Shildt's surprise departure from the Padres was announced as a quote-unquote retirement, and team personnel are insisting it was Shildt's call to exit after feeling worn down. However, it was hard to see him lasting in that role considering his very poor relationship that he had with some of his coaches. Sources suggest that one of the coaches recently was so upset after feeling insulted by Shildt that a fight nearly broke out among them. Shildt gained a rep as a blunt and temperamental coach in St. Louis, where he was fired after an excellent season. In St. Louis, the feeling was that he didn't treat the support staff appropriately, so the situation is somewhat similar. When I saw this, I thought to myself, uh-oh, here it comes. And boy, howdy, did it start to come out after that. Alex, there is a lot in this piece from the San Diego Union-Tribune. And I reached out to the author of this piece, Kevin Acee. Have not heard back from him, but I would have loved to have had him on the show today. You guys mind if I read a little bit of this?
Please. Again, get your popcorn ready, folks.
Again, this comes from Kevin Acee of the San Diego Union-Tribune. Mike Shildt was worn out and made the decision to leave his job as the Padres manager in order to focus on his mental and physical well-being. Mike Shildt had also worn out many members of the Padres coaching staff and support staffs, as well as others around the organization. Both things can be true at the same time, and that's what makes his decision to step away on Monday so complicated. Nearly 20 sources, 12 of whom worked with Shildt on a daily basis during the season, have in recent months characterized Shildt as unyieldingly demanding of his coaching staff and the team's support staff, and as having a tendency to micromanage and possessing a quick temper, that is easily triggered by questioning or by feedback. He was taken aback by the depth of some of these grievances about him and disputed that he had acted inappropriately, though he did not deny that he was aware of a certain level of discord among the staff. He almost exclusively attributed that to some staff members not being on board and or not knowing what it takes to have a championship effort. Okay.
Can I have a quick question? Does he know what it takes to have a championship effort?
He believes so, yes.
Okay. Just making sure.
The 2 years appear to show that he did not alter the way that he dealt with people who worked under him. The issues that surfaced in San Diego were virtually identical to the issues that several league sources said Shildt had that led to his abrupt dismissal in St. Louis following a 90-win season in 2021. Shildt then acknowledged on Tuesday that the things he was hearing here in San Diego were, quote, eerily similar in the two places that I've managed, end quote.
Jeez.
The Cardinals have only ever said publicly that Shildt was fired due to philosophical differences. About a half dozen sources, including the current and former members of the St. Louis organization and two people who were part of front offices that considered interviewing Shildt in the month after he was fired, said some Cardinals coaches and others threatened to quit in the event that Shildt remained as the manager in St. Louis. That did not occur here in St. Louis, in San Diego, though multiple coaches indicated that they would leave if they found opportunities elsewhere and Shildt remained. What is clear is that the disconnect between Shildt and others that he worked with in San Diego and St. Louis, they all feel it is an inappropriate management style. No one has ever questioned Shilt's drive to win. His intentions are not really even an issue for many of the detractors. It's his methods that are a problem. It continues from there with specific details on what has gone wrong for Mike Shildt in St. Louis and in San Diego. It's a lot. It's a really lengthy piece. It's worth your time. If you want to check it out, it's over in the San Diego Union-Tribune. My question to you is this, and 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. YouTube chat is available for you at youtube.com/101ESPN-STL. Does this change anything about the way that you feel about Mike Shildt, about the way that you feel about John Mozeliak and his decision to fire Mike Shildt, about the way you feel about Ollie Marmol, who was put into an impossible situation where he has to replace the guy that is fired by cloak and dagger in the middle of the night, basically? Like, does any of this change anything? Because there are a lot of details in here that do not paint Mike Shildt in a positive light, not in public. The public stuff, none of this is really necessarily questioned, other than there's a lengthy piece here about how he treated the media and how he didn't like being questioned in post-game press conferences, and how apparently the front office would watch those post-game press conferences to see how he treated the media, because they were like, is it going to show through what he's doing behind closed doors? Anyways, it's really about what happens behind the scenes. There's one anecdote in here, Alex, where he's berating his staff, and then he walks out of the room and immediately is smiling upon seeing one of his players and his buddy with them. Apparently, it's the staffing part of this that was a huge issue for him, both here in St. Louis and in San Diego. So I've said a lot here. Does it change anything for you guys?
It should. It should change things a lot for Cardinals fans, because regardless if he was winning as the manager for the Cardinals, you can't have this atmosphere around your team. You can't have this atmosphere around the people that are working within the organization on the day-to-day basis. Like, the part that I highlighted when I read this last night and you sent it to us was the tendency to micromanage, characterize Shildt as unyieldingly demanding on his coaching staff and the team support staff. When I read that, it's like, okay, so he's a really intense individual. That's not the end of the world. Everybody works with the boss who is very intense. But then the next part, possessing a quick temper that is easily triggered by questioning of feedback. Man, that's not leadership there.
Does that happen?
Does that remind you? Does it remind you of anything? No, I mean, that's not leadership. And so I know people see it and say, well, the Cardinals were winning when Mike Shildt was there, and they got rid of him in the middle of a 90-plus win season. He was the manager of the year. Yeah, but I think the Cardinals probably said, like, what it is right here in Shildt, it's going to get worse if we stick with this. Because behind closed doors, the stuff that fans don't see is other coaches on the staff or other personnel that are working with the team, making sure day-to-day that the players are ready to go. Man, it's an impossible work environment for something like that. Again, the manager is supposed to be the leader of the team. And if this guy is quick-tempered and triggered when somebody questions a decision, how is that supposed to be leadership within your organization? So I read this, and it's like, good on the Cardinals for making this decision. I mean, it sucked at the time because we were wondering why this team was winning, and you had Mike Shildt, who was a successful manager. You finally struck gold after it not working out with Mike Matheny, and you're just going to fire him? But to me, that's also on the Cardinals. I mean, like, I understand, and that comment by John Mozeliak is like, legally we're not supposed to say anything. But the uncertainty and the unknown, the confusion around, like, oh, well, philosophical differences by the Cardinals, man, that keeps fan bases into the questioning of, like, man, what's going on behind closed doors?
I've wondered this myself. Would it have did it do them a disservice by operating this way? Because I think the reason they did this is because they really like Mike Shildt. They wanted Mike Shildt to be able to have a second chance as a manager.
And I respect that from them on that. That's the human side of it that I respect about the Cardinals.
And I think they wanted that. I think Mo wanted that. And I think the Cardinals viewed it as being the right thing to do to give him that second opportunity. Because if you aired this dirty laundry, he probably doesn't get this chance with the Padres. I don't think they could have hired him because of the public backlash that would have taken place. But because it was kept in-house and everybody maintained the company line of, hey, listen, we're just going our separate ways, blah, blah, blah. It felt as though Mike Shildt was the one that was wronged. When in reality, the people that worked for Mike Shildt were clearly the ones that were wronged. And so it was within their rights to fire Mike Shildt. I think they probably made the absolute correct decision to go their separate ways at the time. Just as right now, I think if you're the Padres, you probably have no other choice but to make this decision of going your separate ways with Mike Shildt. I think Mike Shildt seems like a pretty good manager. I think that is maybe overstating things, though, because a big part of the job is managing people, man. In any walk of life, whatever it is that you do, if you are put into a leadership position, part of that is getting those around you, whether it be like in baseball, coaches, players, support staff. It's getting everybody on the same page and then trying to achieve a common goal. And sometimes that means having really difficult conversations. You got to have conversations that, yeah, somebody didn't do something the right way. And you've got to find a way to say, hey, that's not the way that we do things here. We do things this way, and bring them along with you, or decide that person's not up to our standards. We need to find somebody who is. I understand that. That's necessary in any business, and sometimes people just aren't pulling their weight the way that they need to. But Mike Shildt clearly, based upon the fact that this is now multiple different organizations, 20 sources in this story that were willing to talk about this, everybody's saying the same thing. Guys were willing to quit here in St. Louis, according to this piece. Guys in San Diego were like, I'll just get another job elsewhere. They didn't want to work for Mike Shildt anymore. That's not good leadership. And I know some will say that's old school. He was trying to hold people to the standard. Nah, man. Whatever it may be, if you are in a walk of life now, like baseball, sales, corporate America, whatever it is, if people underneath you say, not worth my time, I'll go work elsewhere because you don't treat people the right way, that's not good leadership.
Well, but yes, absolutely. But like you can't be a manager if you're not willing to listen to other people's opinions on how a game is supposed to go.
Fair.
Like you can't be a manager if you're not willing to take into consideration the bench coach's idea on what you should do. But if you're going to have a quick trigger reaction to sometimes somebody questions what you're doing, well, then this isn't the business for you. And going back to answer your question, I think the Cardinals handled this poorly. The human side of it is different because I respect the Cardinals for looking at this as, look, we don't want to just drag this guy's name through the mud. He's done a lot for our organization. We want to let him put his best foot forward, and then the other team can deal with it. And I'm sure behind the scenes, the Cardinals were honest if San Diego did their due diligence and called. But this, to me, was the starting point, or at least in the early stages of fans not trusting ownership and management because you just were unwilling to discuss anything with us. And legally, maybe they weren't able to. But this, to me, was the start of the Cardinals fans being like, hey, we don't trust you anymore because you're not willing to give us answers. You're not telling us what direction this thing is going in, which I think, and I don't know the proper way they could have handled this because I don't know the legal side of it. But there could have been a way for you to paint the picture of, look, things were not working internally with Mike Shildt. We had to go in a different direction rather than just say philosophical differences.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. The YouTube chat is available at youtube.com/101ESPN STL. We're getting a ton of reaction on this. I want to take it over to the other side. Also want to hear from you via the mic drop feature over on the 101 ESPN app. Does hearing all of this change at all the way that you view the end of Mike Shildt's tenure here in St. Louis? Want to hear from you guys. Also want to get T-Bone's thoughts on this. We'll get into that next year on 101 ESPN.
Sound familiar? At Mattress Firm, we understand there are many problems that can keep you up at night, like snoring, aches and pains, or sleeping hot. Our sleep experts have the unrivaled know-how to match you with a mattress that can help. And now at Mattress Firm, save up to $600 plus get a free adjustable base with select Sealy mattresses. For the great sleep you deserve, visit Mattress Firm. We make sleep easy. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Hi, it's me, Flo, here to tell you that with the Progressive Home and Auto Bundle, you get 24/7 protection, so you're covered no matter where the day takes you.
Even bad hair day?
Yep.
And tree branch fell on my car day?
Especially that day. Progressive has you covered 24/7 for your home and auto.
How about thought it was chicken, but it was tuna day? Or overnight construction outside my bedroom day?
Those days too.
Great, because that was each day this week.
Been there. Well, at least your home and auto are covered every day with Progressive.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Open up your 101 mobile app for your chance to win free tickets to Little River Band coming up on Saturday night, October 25th at the Factory. Find all the ticket details and find that chance to win free tickets for Little River Band right now either at 101ESPN.com or on your 101 mobile app powered by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Mic Drop features on the 101 ESPN app. Scott Lee Heating Mic Drop feature. Did the report that came out of San Diego overnight change at all the way that you feel about Mike Shildt and his tenure here in St. Louis and how it ended here in St. Louis? It did not end well in San Diego, apparently, and it is getting messy right now. Many in the organization spoke over the past several months of repeated angry outbursts and what were painted as unproductive and destructive communication tactics. Shildt often made employees feel silly for mere suggestions or what they deemed to be helpful information, but then would sometimes complain that they didn't have anything prepared for him for specific situations. Some veteran coaches lamented that coaches lower on the totem pole bore the brunt of Shildt's outbursts. That is one of many details that are in this report from the San Diego Union-Tribune. T-Bone, we have not heard from you yet on this story, the light that it paints, Mike Shildt, and what it also does retroactively for how you feel about his tenure here in St. Louis. What was your reaction to this story?
Yeah, I think it now makes more sense as to his exit in St. Louis, and I agree with you guys that it was probably the right call, especially when you hear reports of, hey, the staff around him was threatening to quit here in St. Louis. Baseball is no longer a one-man operation like it used to be in the 80s, right? When Whitey was the guy for the St. Louis Cardinals, he was the face of the organization, not just because there was an era named after him in Whitey Ball, but it was because he was the guy making decisions on and off the field and was also the guy that was the GM of the team. Man, baseball nowadays, it is like, 100 guys helping make decisions for like one game because you've got the assistant coaches, pitching coaches are talking. Like, just look at a Cardinals game now, right? You see who's next to Oli Marmol for every game. Daniel Descalso, Dusty Blake when they're on the pitching side. He's going to talk with Brant Brown when it comes to hitting. They go through their game planning. Like, it is a whole operation that you've got this. And on top of that, they meet with the front office basically every day to go through any roster moves that they have to make, So you can't have most of your supporting staff just want to quit on you, right? Then, if you did decide to go that route, okay, well, now you have to hire a ton of new people around Mike Shildt. By the way, the dirty laundry probably comes out from those people that did quit, and it gets a lot harder to hire a supporting staff. You had to make a move if you were the St. Louis Cardinals. Now, should they have not kept it as cloak and dagger? I think there's a fair argument towards that because then it does look a little bit better on the organization and it makes things look a little bit better on Oli Marmol in terms of it doesn't look as much like the puppet master as people think he was hired to be for John Mozeliak. I also think when you're talking about this story and you look at it from the San Diego perspective, did they not do any back channeling for this? And if not, then who? If they did, were they just kind of sold the bag of hey, yeah, Mike Shildt, good manager like that? I think this looks very bad on AJ Preller as well, and I think he deserves a lot of criticism for what he decided to do because he moved on from Bob Melvin, brought in Mike Shildt, which if you knew about these issues, now aired the dirty laundry 2 years into his tenure here in San Diego, and it is now an exit.
I mean, it's a great point, T-Bone. The Padres did the equivalent with Mike Shildt to what the Cardinals did with Wilson Contreras. You go out there and now, the Contreras thing was more out in the open of hey, look, the guy can't play the catcher position, so what are you signing him for? But I have to imagine that if you're A.J. Preller, you're calling the Cardinals and saying, hey, what happened? We're thinking about hiring him. Give me some background. And if you didn't, even more shame on you, A.J. Preller, for not doing your due diligence. But if you called and John Mozeliak and company were honest and said, yeah, look, things just weren't good behind the scenes. We love the guy, but it just didn't work out here. We had to go a different direction. You can't hire that for a team that's expected to win. The Cardinals were a team that's yeah, they should be a team that can win in the NL Central. The Padres were viewed as one of the best teams in the National League, and you went and got that as the manager?
Can I try to sell you on it? On how you could have been convinced that this would be different for you?
You could
try. Twofold. One, he spent a year in the organization, and my guess is he was a model citizen. He did everything that you could have asked out of him. He was collaborative. He was a guy that was getting along with everybody, in part because, guess what? There was no pressure. And this is why we've had a lot of people text in saying, guys, wasn't he here for 20 years? How did this stuff not come out previously? Because the pressure's different. Once you're in that chair, Alex, I've never been in it, certainly, but I've talked to people who have been. The amount of pressure that exists when you are the sole member of the final line of decision making, and you're the one that is being criticized in the media and by the fans every day, and you're the one that has to answer for every decision that is put out on display on the baseball field, it's different. You got 40,000 people in the stands every night, and you've got 1 million plus that are just hoping like hell that you win every single night. And if you don't, it's on you. When that's on the line, it changes things. So my guess is twofold. One, he was great in the organization the year prior when he didn't have any of that pressure on him. And two, I think maybe they viewed it as, hey, in his second opportunity, he'll learn from the mistakes. He'll learn from what happened previously. And I am somebody that believes in second chances. I think you should be able to get a second opportunity. Now, it ended the exact same the way that it did here in St. Louis. And so Shildt didn't change. So I think some of this is they believed at the time, he'll change, he'll get better, he'll grow from the mistake that he made while he was here in St. Louis. And then they were also desperate. And they viewed him as a good manager. And they said, we need to win right now. And we know this guy's a good manager. So even if he doesn't change, we'll probably get the benefit of the fact that he's a really good manager. And if we have to fire him 2 years from now, so be it. AJ Preller is unafraid to make mistakes. And I think he made maybe a mistake here. I would also say, I'm not sure that he regrets the hire. The Padres were really good under Mike Shildt's tenure.
It sounds like they're going to bring him back.
Huh?
It sounds like they were going to bring him back until this came out.
Yeah, they were planning to work with him on how to communicate. They were coaching him up in that area. So I don't know that they necessarily had some huge regrets about hiring Mike Shildt. I think people inside that organization, now this is just me guessing, they probably look at this and say, we got exactly what we wanted out of this. He cleaned stuff up on the field for us. We were a good baseball team. We had a championship caliber roster. We fell short, sure, but we were right there for a couple of years with Mike Shildt as our manager. That's really all we can ask for. But that being said, I think it speaks more to like what happened here. We finally get answers in St. Louis. That's been the most frustrating thing to me over the last 5 years. We just didn't know. Like, there's been rumblings, don't get me wrong. I've heard stuff. You guys have heard stuff. I'm sure many listeners right now have heard stuff about what took place here in St. Louis with Mike Shildt. Nobody would come out publicly and say what happened. And now we know. It's in writing. It's in a report from San Diego of this is what it's like to work with Mike Shildt. And now I look at it much differently of I think they made the right decision there. And I think this does not reflect on positive leadership in 2025. Maybe 20 years ago, people viewed this as what leadership should have looked like. I don't know. I was 10 years old at the time.
Well,
but
you should have been learning leadership
if
at that
they
time.
did, it's not what passes as positive leadership today. This is not what management looks like. It's not what good management looks like, at least. And I think they made the right call to move on from him. And I will say, like, what I'm seeing on the text line right now, I think there are a lot of people that view this as, my opinion has changed a little bit on the way that the Cardinals handled things with Mike Shildt now, because we know this publicly.
It's not even a think anymore. It should be. Like, your opinion should change. I mean, that's, for all the bad that the Cardinals have gone through over these last 3 to 5 years, this was a bright spot of, hey, they saw something in Mike Shildt behind closed doors that fans weren't present to and privy to, and they said, we got to move on. We got to make a better decision. And, I mean, I know people have their opinions on Ali Marmol, but I think it also goes to show you the grass isn't always greener on the other side, to where it's like, I know people are like, Marmol's not the guy that can lead the Cardinals, blah, blah, blah. Think of the bad 3 seasons that the Cardinals have had and how things haven't gotten out of control behind closed doors, or at least we don't hear about, compared to everything that came out with Mike Shildt and the struggles that they've gone through. So, I mean, to me, the opinion should change, because this is a good leadership decision by the Cardinals front office to say this isn't the right guy.
Somebody on the text line just asked, how different is his style from TLR's? I don't know, but I can say this. TLR's staff,
people loved working
were
for him.
Incredibly loyal to Tony La Russa. Mike Shildt didn't have a single member of the Cardinals staff that left with him to go to San Diego.
Yeah.
That's rare, guys. That's incredibly rare. The guys that were on staff here in St. Louis, for the most part, they stuck with Ollie. That's interesting to me. Coming up in 5 minutes, I'm going to call another audible real quick. Kevin Acee just got back with me, the writer of this story.
Oh, nice.
He's going to join us in 5 minutes here on BK and Ferrario.
101 ESPN is powered by Kaufman Townsley, St. Louis's injury lawyers. Call 314-500-5000.
At Arctic Spas, hot tubs, and all-weather pools, they understand the importance of rest, relaxation, and recovery. Arctic Spas has made hot tubbing a breeze with Spa Boy, their automated saltwater care system. Take your weekly water care routine from 30 minutes to 30 seconds. Arctic Spas proudly offers a wide selection of cold tubs and clear water spas, too. Turn your backyard into the perfect getaway with Arctic Spas on Manchester Road in Ellisville. Visit arcticspas-stlewis.com. arcticspas-stlewis.com. the legendary Fast Eddie of Fast Eddie's Bon Air and Redbirds Hall of Famer Jason Isringhausen.
Hey, Izzy, what's going on, man? Looks kind of like you got something on your mind.
Well, Eddie boy, I'm thinking you may need to change the name of your place from Fast Eddie's to $5 Eddie's.
$5 Eddie's? Man, why in the world would I call it $5 Eddie's?
Well, I was in there the other day and bought myself the coldest beer I've ever had in my life, and I gave the guy $5. And then I went over and got some of those huge cold water peel and eat shrimps, and I gave her $5.
Well, I never really thought about that. There's a lot of $5 going on in there.
And then I went back up and got one of those huge Fast Eddie cheeseburgers, and I gave them $5 again.
Man, definitely has a ring to it. I think there's a lot of $5 going on.
Yeah, and I had about $100 worth of good time.
Well, that's good to hear, and it's easy to do with live music 7 days a week and a big old party going on that big, beautiful outdoor patio.
Well, like Mr. Shannon always says, if you're 21 and in the mood, head on over to Fast Eddie's Bon Air in Alton, Illinois, and maybe take a selfie on that old Harley Davidson of mine.
Who else has got a Cardinal Hall of Famer's Harley Davidson sitting out on the patios for some selfies?
Only Eddie boy.
The St. Louis Blues quest for the cup starts right here.
Big save on one end, tie game on the other.
Tonight, Blues and Blackhawks. Pre-game at 7:30, puck drop at 8:30.
Score! He tucks it in with a great move.
This is your exclusive home for Blues hockey. 101 ESPN.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues back in action tonight as they take on the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario, and then puck drop at 8:30 with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And in Major League Baseball last night, the Dodgers beat the Brewers, taking a 2-0 series lead in the NLCS. Game 3 of the ALCS will be tonight between the Mariners and Blue Jays, where the Mariners lead that series 2-0. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See them at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Acee is the Padres beat writer for the San Diego Union-Tribune. We've been reading from his story, which posted last night. We talked a little bit about this, Alex, on Mike Shildt, the decision to leave the Padres, and what led to that decision, and whether or not it was maybe both parties that were ready to end this relationship. A lot of new reporting as well on what led to his dismissal here in St. Louis, for the first time being publicly revealed by Kevin Acee. And Kevin Acee joins us now via the Callier and Thompson hotline. Kevin, appreciate you joining us on such short notice. Let's start out with this. How much of this was known in San Diego prior to his decision to leave the Padres a couple of days ago?
A fair amount. Do you mean how much of my reporting was known, or how much of what had happened in St. Louis?
Let's go either way. You can take it in either direction.
Your chuckles tell me both might be true.
Well, yeah. The quick one. The Padres, like virtually every major league team, were aware of some of the stuff that had happened in St. Louis and led to the dismissal there. How much was known here? Look, not much. I've been working on this story to some extent for 6 months in terms of, knowing about things, hearing things, talking to people about things, and just going, well, no one's threatening to quit. No one's filed an HR complaint I know of. The team is winning, by the way. The players love them and are responding. So this isn't a story yet. So, then Mike retires. And, there's some certain narratives, and I like to provide context in my stories. And I thought that this story, the time was right for it. But was it well known in the organization? Oh, my gosh, yes. Was it known out in public? No. I mean, it really wasn't.
So now that the story's come out, Kevin, and we just had this conversation, and I know A.J. Preller spoke with the media this past week as well, does it feel like the Padres look back on this as maybe a regrettable decision, or is it just a matter of, hey, look, this happened, we were aware of it, and we're moving forward?
I think it's that, and I know that sounds convenient and everything, but they just won 90 games the year before they won 93. As you guys are well familiar with, Mike's, taken 5 different teams to the postseason. It was a good run. And so, Mike leaves the Padres. He leaves the clubhouse in terms of the players. He leaves the culture of that together. Mike's a complex man. I'll tell you, it's weird that I would, you guys would be talking about this story and I'd be talking about how he left the culture better. He did. He did a good job here. And so I don't think there's regret in that way, but just like I am positive, based on my reporting that in Cleveland, there's a little post-traumatic, in St. Louis, didn't mean to insult you. I happen to love Cleveland. I just want that to be on the record. I really do. But in St. Louis, a little post-traumatic situation with some people in the organization after working with Mike. There certainly is a little bit of that here.
So can you paint a picture for some of our listeners? Because many of them didn't know that this is what it was like to work for Mike Shildt. Many of the media here in St. Louis have at least heard some of it, but nothing enough to go on the record with it. Can you paint a picture of what it was like to be a coach working for Mike Shildt?
Yeah, it's so weird to try to explain this and be fair to Mike, right? So what I'll start with is Mike's a perfectionist, holds himself to that standard and believes, based on what he learned according to him, in the Cardinals organization. And if you've ever heard Mike, you know how much he talks about George Kissel, Tony La Russa, other guys, and just how he was taught. And, Mike grew up in baseball and worked his way up from the bottom, has done every job and believes, that he knows every job. So Mike holds people to a really high standard, and you can have your opinion on that, but that's just a fact. And then, Mike doesn't respond well, according to several people, that when things don't go the way he thought they should, if you're not meeting the expectation that he believes is necessary in terms of work, execution of, maybe having an explanation to a player, running a drill, whatever it is, in-game stuff. If you're not on point with what Mike expected, there can be a temper. I will say this, that, became a little easier for me to report some of this stuff, because what would happen is people in the organization would watch his post-game press conferences, and they were kind of bizarre. Like, Mike was incredibly defensive, never covered anyone like him in my life, because he would imagine questions and imagine slights, and without me even trying in a couple instances, people would reach out to me and say, hey, I know what that's like. What? And so, that what people saw in those post-game press conferences, which unfortunately in some ways are, televised and then clipped and put online now, everyone could see, that's a little bit of what it was like behind closed doors, where, there was one in particular. I had quite a few run-ins. I had quite a few times where I knew what it was like to coach for Mike Shildt, where he kind of went off on me.
Me too,
in private.
You guys should start a club.
Okay, so there you go. So here, I have a philosophy that I don't really care how you treat the media. Like, in a lot of instances, it doesn't matter. Manny Machado's not great, but he's freaking changed the entire situation in San Diego. He's a phenomenal player, and I love covering him. And even though it sometimes takes me 5 minutes to get one good quote out of him because he's more interested in being a jerk, I love covering him, and he has good stuff to say. I don't care how you treat the media, unless how you treat the media is kind of a window into how you treat everybody. And so, or a lot of people. And because Mike is great to players, I want to make that clear. That's who Mike is. I think he's a complex man. I think he wants to be a good guy. It's a real interesting situation.
And for me too, Kevin, like, hearing you say that, and I understand, like, you put on different faces, different masks, right, with the people you work around, the media, and then the players. But the part that I guess I'm so surprised by is how the players didn't really have any negative reaction to Mike Shildt. Is it just because he was able to put that mask on, or was it the players just focused on the game?
I always say this about players, and I don't mean it as the insult that it might come across. But if you've been around these guys anywhere near as much as I have, I think you'll understand. baseball players and all professional athletes, but baseball players in particular, what it takes to grind through season after season, day after day it's incredible. And they're the most self-centered people that I have ever known in my life. And I say that with admiration. Like, that's what it takes to play baseball for a lot of these guys. And so great. So there's a little bit of that, like, hey, we're getting some excellent coaching and teaching here. Look, there are players that weren't happy with some of the coaches and would go to Mike. There are other coaches that were unhappy with coaches. This happens all the time. And Mike's job as the manager is to make sure there's a standard. And look, we don't know. I don't even know. I think I know the situation pretty well, but I don't know, like, what the standard was. You can argue, was his standard too high? Well, no, his standard was what he thought was necessary to win a World Series. You can argue the methods by which he did it. I'm just telling you the consistency of the nearly 20 people that I talked to for this, and I'm being talked to in depth, not just, so there's probably 40 people I've talked to about it, but 20 people whose information I used for this story, the consistency of the experience that they have had with Mike behind closed doors I've been doing this a long time. I mean, it was stunning that people would describe the way that Mike would go from that public persona to something else, and then back again. And I'm not calling him fake. I'm not. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know all this. Mike, like I said, I think he's a good guy. But there's a snap in there that happens when things aren't going the way Mike thinks they should.
Kevin Acee is the Padres beat writer for the San Diego Union-Tribune. If you have not read his piece yet, I highly recommend doing so. It is about Mike Shildt and what led to his departure in San Diego, and there are some new details that are reported in there about what led to his dismissal here in St. Louis. Kevin, obviously I'm not going to ask you who or what the names are, but have you heard from anybody in St. Louis saying, like, hey, I'm glad this stuff is finally out there?
Yeah. And there were people that over the course of the past couple months seemed to be, saying the same thing and seemed to be relieved. I got to say that, and I'm not trying to beat up on Mike. I hope I'm defending him capably as well. But a lot of times these interviews turned into like a support group type of situation. Like, that's honestly what it was like. I just, if I could give people a picture of, because a lot of people, right? Like, hey, I was raised a certain way and at a certain time. I'll be 55 pretty soon. I responded to harsh coaching. I responded to that was me. I guess if you asked me, gosh, do I think that being yelled at by my boss is a big deal? The answer is no. I'm not going to put myself in the place of someone who doesn't think it's okay, though. I'm not going to say that it's okay to be belittled by your boss or made to feel insignificant or that time and again you can't do something right or be yelled at. I'm not going to say that. And maybe I wouldn't like it either in that situation. But I'm just saying we can all have our opinion on that. But if I could give you a picture of what people painted, it was like being in a kind of an abusive relationship. And please, let's keep that in context here. I'm just saying that, like, it really felt like a support group, some of these interviews. Not some, most of these interviews felt like a support group.
Are you surprised that this didn't come out when he was let go here in St. Louis, Kevin?
I am, but I want to be careful that I've had stuff like that happen to me a lot. I'm not saying that it should have or anything like that, but yes, of course I am. But, I've had things like that where people will write about something years after, I covered something and, I didn't know about it or know enough about it or whatever, right? It went off the radar, whatever. And then I'm like, oh gosh, why didn't I know that? Whatever. There's all sorts of circumstances about how that can come out. And I got to say kudos to Maziliak. I mean, kudos. Absolutely. For taking the bullets on this, at least what it appears to me from afar.
And this will be my final question. We're talking to Kevin Acee here on 101 ESPN. He's the Padres beat writer for the San Diego Union-Tribune. He's the one that wrote that long, informed piece on Mike Shildt and what it's like to work for him overnight. You mentioned kudos to John Mozeliak. Out of curiosity, do you think that it is a good thing to wear those arrows and to hide some of this stuff? Like, was that a good thing for the organization? You've been covering baseball for a really long time. Do you think it helps when you're able to do that? I'm curious your perspective on that.
Yeah, I do. Look, I'm in the business of gathering information, right? Like, and putting out things that maybe some people don't want put out, and then just telling the truth. So yeah, that's kind of weird. I'd be like, hey, way to go, you hid that. But there's also personnel situations, right, where you need to do it by law, and there's respect for people. I did get the impression in the times that I spoke to him that he respected Mike and certain aspects. We've started to live in this black and white world where someone's very good or very bad or the worst or the best. And it's like, that's just not true. My wife can be kind of a nag sometimes. I think she's the greatest woman in the world. I truthfully do. But, like, come on. I got to shut my mouth sometimes when my sons are complaining about her because I'm like, I'm not going to say anything, but I don't disagree with you there. But, like, come on, guys. There's a lot of gray area there. So, so I do. I respect the hell out of it, and I respect the hell out of A.J. Preller for that. I try to find respect in virtually almost everyone I cover. Like, hey, what has made them so excellent that they have risen to the top of their profession? And I did that with Mike. And I do that with everyone I cover, and I try to look at a situation like happened in St. Louis, and especially as I did more reporting on this, and some people were vomiting information because, like I said, it was like they were just unleashing stuff. I was like, I'm really surprised this hasn't come out, but I've been in this business too long to not understand that there's just different circumstances sometimes where some, things come out in different ways.
Hey, Kevin, appreciate the time. Thanks so much for hopping on with us today. Huge story for you over in the San Diego Union-Tribune. I think it does a really good job of painting all of the context of the good, the bad, the indifferent, what it's like to work with Mike Shildt as a manager of your baseball organization. All the best, man. We look forward to talking with you again soon.
Take care.
That's Kevin Acee. Appreciate his time joining us here on BK and Ferrario, Padres beat writer for the San Diego Union-Tribune. Brought a lot of light to what it's like to work for Mike Shildt.
I think he said exactly what my mindset is just in terms of the John Mozeliak front. Like, credit to them, man. Like, one, you saw it and you moved on from it. Two, you did a good job to make sure that it's not, look, we're not going to drag the guy's name through the mud. I just, again, for how much crap he has gone through over the last 5 years, this is something that I do think sheds a little bit more positive light on him now than what it's done in the past.
From the 636 guys, reach out to Mike Shildt, get his side for the show.
Oh, he won't answer BK's phone call. Maybe I'll reach out.
I can text him. I don't think I'm going to get a response.
He'll
I'll just
say,
tell you that much.
This is not your job, Brandon. Do we have that audio, by the way? Can we
I'm sure
we got to find it today at some point.
In the system somewhere. With Alex and T-Bone on BK, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. A ton to react to there. We'll get into it. We'll hear your questions and answers coming up next here on 101 ESPN. Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and get them in right now on the Air Comfort Service text line. From the 314, as a fan, is it fair to be concerned about the St. Louis media having never been able to find the reporting that was necessary to post a story about these issues with Shildt? Did they cover up for the team? No, I would not feel that way. Let me explain why. The team had a concerted effort to make sure that this stuff never got out. I can say that as somebody that covers this team. Like, have I heard some of these stories? Of course. We all have. Have I ever been able to get anything concrete to the point where, like, I'm good with running with it? Absolutely not. And that was by design. The Cardinals organization, now you can give them credit for this, or you can say that it was a mistake because it shed them in a negative light and put all of the onus on, like, hey, Shilt's the martyr here. They did not want this stuff out there. And if that's what they wanted, goal accomplished. It did not get out from the St. Louis side up until San Diego got a little messy here, and they were willing to share their dirty laundry out there. But no, I wouldn't be concerned about it. It was a concerted effort by the team, and I think it speaks to how tight-lipped the Cardinals organization has been under John Mozeliak.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you just said. And I mean, I look at the people that cover St. Louis sports specifically, like Derek Gould and Katie Wu and Jeremy Rutherford on the blue side. Like, these guys don't cover up for the team. Like, they're honest and upfront with everything that they report on this team, and they've uncovered stories before. It's just this was something that the Cardinals did not want to see the light of day.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. The Cardinals did such a good job of making sure that this never got out there that you can never get enough on it to run it. And if you're a reporter, you can't just run something on one source. You got to get it multiple. Like Kevin Acee just had 20. Yeah, like you can't run unless you get a lot.
For 6 months.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, from the 636, guys, do you expect any line changes tonight for the game against Chicago, Alex?
Do you?
No, I would say you're winning. You're going for 3 in a row. I would say
so. You wouldn't change anything. Just Vancouver lineup.
I would start our best goalie Holford tonight.
Oh well, I thought they were talking about the line combinations. When we say line combinations, that's not a goalie.
Guess the lines. T-Bone hit the open.
Oh, gosh.
No, I wouldn't expect anything on the line combinations. Now, it is out by now. They've JR tweeted this out. It is going to be Hofer in this game tonight. And I don't think this has anything to do with Hofer versus Binnington and everything to do with keeping both fresh. Because I've
said this in the past. I think that Binnington is at his best when he doesn't get overworked. I think this is the right way to handle it. Also, Hofer's good.
Yeah. I think at the end of the season, you'll see 40... You'll see like 36 games for, not 36, you'll see 45 games for Binnington, 37 games for Joel Hofer. It's not going to be 50-50, but it's going to be very close to it. And look, now's the perfect time. You got 2 days off to rest Binnington after this before Saturday's game, and then Binnington will probably play Saturday, and then you just go back and forth with it until the season picks up.
From FedEx Brian, guys, it's hockey season. Who cares about this Mike Shildt stuff or baseball at this point? It's one of the biggest Cardinal stories of the last 20 years. And for the first time, we have real, detailed explanations as to what took place here in St. Louis.
Yeah, but the Blackhawks are in town, and they're a juggernaut right now in the Western Conference.
And we'll talk about it. We'll get to
juggernaut.
It's game
so that's why we're talking about it.
4 tonight. Sorry.
All right, last thing here from the 314. Guys, what's the BK Shildt story? Now would be a great time to quickly tell that story if you'd like.
I can't wait to relive this. Hold on.
Get the music down.
Hold on.
I seriously cringe every time that I hear this. A, because I don't come off well on this. Just first off, I don't come off well on this. I have so many regrets about the way all of this went down. And B,
Shildt does too.
Well, I don't think so. And B, I just don't like this. All of this. It makes me cringe in so many different ways.
I remember. I loved it.
The Cardinals at the time, it's early July, start of the second half of the season. They are taking on the Cubs. They had a big lead. The bullpen blows it. And so in the post-game press conference, to set the scene for you guys, we were assembled on Zoom because this is the 2021 season. This is coming off of the COVID year, but we're still not able to be in the clubhouse and everything. So at this time, I don't have a relationship with Mike Shildt. I just got back in town. I had not yet been able to cover the team day-to-day in person. So my relationship is purely through a screen. And so as the press conference is coming to a close, they say, any more questions? Shildt gets ready to get up, and I raise my hand because I'm like, yeah, I've got to ask about the bullpen imploding and the way that you utilize them, and here's what it sounded like.
Going to Garcia in the ninth inning, can you give us your thought process going to him there? It's a 6-1 lead in the ninth. Who would you want to go to?
I know the options are limited there.
No, you tell me. Who would you go to? You're going to throw your closer up 5 runs?
Given the situation, I would have considered Reyes or Gallegos in that spot. But
well, you know what?
It's not my job.
It's not your job. We had a 5-run lead. That's a different situation. I can't pitch those guys every night. We got a 5-run lead in the ninth. Other guys have to pick. There's a reason there's a 3-run save. We brought Alex in with some cushion. Didn't happen. You can second guess it all you want. It's the right move. It didn't work out. If you want to pitch those guys every night, we won't have anybody left come September. That's how the baseball works.
It's how the baseball works, guys.
I got to tell you, it doesn't sound as bad in retrospect for him. I don't think it sounds that bad.
I disagree. The first part, you could see like Shilt's face got red there. He was getting pissed. Mad. And then I think it tempered it once he kind of calmed down. I just personally love at the end of it where BK's trying to end it. He's like, it's fine. That's fine. Thank you, Mike. It's fine. It's fine. Just please let's end this right now.
I remember at the time of this, I was living with my grandparents. And I remember because like post game pops up later on the broadcast, right? Because they've got to record it. And I just remember the text from BK. Oh, Mike's upset with me. I'm like, okay, well, I got to watch post game. I have no idea what this is about.
I was on that Zoom.
This is right after we started working with each other.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is that year. That's the first year that the three of us were doing the show together.
Yeah, I was on that Zoom in my basement, and I'm watching that. And I'm like, oh, God, here it goes with our show.
So, for context, at the time, Luis Garcia had pitched in 2 games for the Cardinals, had gone exactly 1 inning in those 2 games, gave up 4 hits, did not, at that point in time, have a whole lot of success, had given up 3 earned runs. 3 earned runs, had recorded 3 outs, and then in that game, gives up a hit, 3 earned runs in that spot, including a walk. Cardinals were up at the time, 7-1. They were trying to close out the game, and they had Alex Reyes and Giovanni Gallegos. Went to neither of them until it was already too late. End up losing it 7-6 because they completely imploded.
You don't have to defend yourself anymore, okay? He can't hurt you anymore.
So that is what took place.
I still agree with Mike. You don't throw your closer when you're up.
Yeah, I mean, that was a stupid. Come on, man. Okay. You know better than that.
The Cardinals did that this year, and it worked out for them because they needed to get super aggressive.
Oh, did it work out for them? Where'd they finish in the standings?
Coming up next.
And when did they do it?
Maybe it was Shildt that I don't remember.
It definitely was not Oliver.
There was a moment this year that we talked about where it was like, hey, that's the exact situation that I was talking about.
Maybe Shildt did it in San Diego. Maybe he learned his lesson.
Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll get into more likely to happen. 314-399-9646. That's the Air Comfort Service text line to get involved in the show. But coming up next, the greatest fears of the Dodgers have all come to fruition. We'll talk about it here on BK and Ferrario.
The 0-2. And a swing and a miss. And Yoshi Yamamoto with his crown jewel as a Dodger. It is a complete game. He goes the distance. And the Dodgers win Game 2 by a score of 5-1.
Alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK, that's what it sounded like last night on Fox Sports, or Turner Sports, rather. The greatest fear of the Dodgers has come to fruition, Alex. This team's a juggernaut. Are you bleeping kidding me?
Some of us were never worried that was going to be a problem with the Dodgers.
Now they have the best pitching in baseball. The problem all year long is that they didn't have starting pitchers, and now they're starting Tyler Glasnow in Game 3 of the NLCS.
Yeah, they treat their pitching staff the way that they should. We're great. We don't care what we do in the regular season. We'll get by. Just make sure they're all healthy for the postseason.
I think they're cheating.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto yesterday. Complete game. 3 hits, 1 earned run, 7 strikeouts, 1 walk.
Yeah, well, Cardinals could have had him.
Yeah, for sure.
But they had Lars Nootbaar.
The 1 run that he allowed was on the first at-bat of the game against him. After that, didn't allow another run the rest of the way. Alex, I don't even know what to say about them anymore. Shohei's been bad for the most part so far this postseason. He's batting 147 in the playoffs, and it just doesn't matter. Because Mookie Betts, who was bad all regular season, is now batting 300 with a 455 slug. Kike Hernandez is doing the thing where it didn't matter what he did during the regular season. We always know this is the case with him.
Yep.
In the playoffs, he's batting 380, casually slugging 515. Teoscar Hernandez, who ho-hum was fine this year, solid player for him. He's now slugging 675. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Shohei can stink, and they've got 5 other dudes that step up for them. Hell, Will Smith, best hitting catcher in Major League Baseball this year. He hasn't slugged at all. Has not hit an extra base hit so far in the postseason. Doesn't matter. They're beating everybody.
Yep.
And the Milwaukee Brewers, this is not me putting them down the way that I normally do. Like, it didn't matter. It could have been the Brewers, the Phillies, the Padres, the Cubs. It didn't matter who was on the other side of this series. They were all getting whacked by this Death Star that is the LA Dodgers. Are you enjoying this?
No.
How are you taking this?
I hate this. Like, this isn't fun. Like, you ask, like, it was the one thing that we feared and it's happening. Yeah, this is why we need a salary cap. This is why, like, when 2027 happens, I hope there's no baseball so that we could get this fixed. This isn't fun. Now, I know this sounds like the old, they keep beating me, this isn't fun, so I don't want to play anymore, right? Like, oh, he's better than me, and I stink, I don't want to play anymore, this game's not fun. On some part, yeah, that's where we lie. Like, if you don't beat it, or if you don't like this, then go out there and beat them. But teams around Major League Baseball can't. They can't develop a roster. They basically can't go out there and put 5 or 6 starting pitchers like the Dodgers have and all of these superstars with a budget and say, yeah, good luck beating us. So that's why it's not fun anymore. So, like, the Dodgers doing this again, and if they go out there and wipe the floor with the Brewers and then go to the World Series and it's not even competitive, then Major League Baseball and the players specifically need to look in the mirror and be like, what are we doing? This isn't good for baseball. This isn't good for the fans. This isn't fair anymore. And again, that sounds like a whiny kid, and I apologize, but this is why a salary cap needs to be put in place in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I look at this.
No. Say it with your chest. You're very much with him.
I am with him. Watching the Brewers, I feel like I'm watching a kid get bullied, and there's nothing I can do about it. And, like, just watching the Dodgers, like, this was the fear when they made all these moves in the offseason. Was, hey, they're going to have this Death Star of a rotation, and the question is, will it be healthy by the time they got to October? They handled these guys with so much kid gloves to where it ended up being true, to where they, something sort of, okay, we're going on the IL for it right now. And now they've got 4 number ones. Like, all these guys that they're starting in this series, we've already seen Snell, we've seen Yamamoto, Ohtani and Glasnow are the other 2 that are going to start. Those 4 guys would be number ones on just about every staff in baseball. There's a couple that might be able to say, hey, they would be like our 2. But the Dodgers are rolling that as a 4-man rotation. Their bullpen is a serious problem. But it doesn't matter when your starters don't give up runs for the first, in this case, 8 innings, then 9 innings last night. Like, you just can't beat them in that case. And the Brewers are a good baseball team. They don't stand a chance. Relax over there, Brandon.
Yeah, they're a good baseball team.
They're a good baseball team.
They're just not the Dodgers.
The Dodgers are just a different level. And if they end up winning the World Series in a year in which they were kind of down, and they ended up like, a lot of people listening to podcast Baseball Wise are like, yeah, the Dodgers, this is kind of how they envisioned it, but they kind of screwed up their own plan because they got into the wild card round. if they're able to get into the wild card round and just kind of breeze through this all because everything just aligned for them with their pitching staff, that is a major problem for Major League Baseball. But this version of the Dodgers was just able to beat the ever-living crap out of everybody in the playoff field.
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line from the 636. Guys, the Phillies spend a lot. The Mets spend a lot. The Yankees spend a lot. Everybody spends a lot. The Dodgers have a top farm system. Salary cap is such a lazy take. Okay. Can I read off how they have acquired their starting lineup? Because I disagree.
No, it's a lazy take by me. I don't know
Free agent,
ball.
trade, free agent, draft, Will Smith. They drafted Will Smith. Credit to them for drafting and developing. Free agent, trade, amateur free agencies. That was the international free agency. In 2018, they signed Andy Pages. Credit. Their bench, trade, got from international free agency, and I'm talking about from the KBO. Trade, free agent. Their rotation, free agent, international free agency, Yamamoto. Trade, free agent in the bullpen. They got off of waivers, drafted, free agency. Like, come on, man.
Yeah.
This is not some team that was like drafted and developed. This is not even the Warriors, where the Warriors don't get the credit that they deserve for drafting and developing Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green.
Yeah.
That's the core. They developed their core, and then they went out and they signed Kevin Durant, right? It's frustrating because they were able to keep all of those guys and they paid all of this money, blah, blah, blah. But, like, they did it in a pretty similar way in so many different areas to, like, the San Antonio Spurs.
Well, the Blackhawks did this, too, where they drafted Taves, Kane, and they drafted Crawford. They had Seabrook and Keith, and they said, cool, let's go get Marion Hossa.
Penguins, right?
Yeah.
Like, you see these teams.
Malkin,
or even
Crosby, Letang.
Florida. Like, they have had some key additions, don't get me wrong, but most of the players that they had that are, leading the charge, especially Barkov, like, they're internal.
Yeah, 4 of their top 9 forwards are internal. 2 of their top defensemen are internal. Like, they've drafted well, and they said, let's add the asset pieces that we need.
The best players on the Dodgers, they purchased via free agency, or they acquired because somebody else was unwilling to give them the money, and they were the team that was willing to give them that money in the case of Mookie Betts.
And not just...
This is different.
Not just acquire and go out and have the money to sign these guys. Also working on things that other teams can't do by doing the pushing money into future years that they did. Remember, Ohtani's making technically $2 million.
Yeah.
Everything else is loaded up on the back end, or after that contract is
all deferred.
done. It's deferred money. And that is something that these other teams cannot. This feels very much like it is in European soccer, where you end up with the top-tier teams are always up there at the top, and they're always spending money. But they, even at the Premier League level, have not had a team, in my opinion, that have really separated themselves like the Dodgers have. Yes, the Phillies, the Mets, the Yankees, the Blue Jays, they're going to spend money. They can't compete with the cash that is rolling into Los Angeles, because they not only are spending money at a crazy amount, they're deferring money that other teams can't do, and they're rolling in cash from all kinds of sponsorships that they're adding from overseas, from the signings from Japan with Ohtani, Yamamoto, and Sasaki.
Well, and like this is just a perfect example because it just popped up on Foul Territory. Ken Rosenthal saying, I wouldn't expect that the Tigers are going to get an extension done with Tarek Skubal. He'll hit the market. In a salary cap world, it'd be like, cool, anybody's got a chance. In this world, it's going to be the Dodgers.
Dodgers, Yankees, Mets, Phillies.
Yeah.
There's your teams. I can exclusively report the teams that are in the bidding for his services.
And there's no other chance. Now, in a salary cap world,
maybe Texas.
There's a chance.
Occasionally.
I just again, I know this sounds like a whiny baby, but it's just where baseball's at. And when you have the Dodgers just completely night and day better than everybody else, I mean, Phillies wasn't even competitive in that series against the Dodgers, and they spend money. So to me, you got to make some type of adjustment so that the rest of the fan base feels like they have a chance.
What's scary, they got money coming off the books, and they will be spending it. Like, I would not be shocked if they are in on Kyle Tucker this offseason.
And Tarek Skubal's from California, too. God, just going to the Dodgers.
Yeah. Or maybe they go out and get Alex Bregman. Bregman's a free agent now this offseason. He opted out of his contract with the Phillies. Maybe Kyle Schwarber. Maybe they decide, you know what, Schwarber's going to be an outfielder for us.
They'll probably trade for Nolan Arenado.
He'll get 1 day a week where Shohei's starting. He's going to get the DH on that day, but otherwise he's starting 4 days a week or 5 days a week for us in the outfield. That sounds scary, T-Bone, sure, but I mean, he's going to drop a couple of fly balls a week and hit 50 ding-dong Johnsons out there. Like, okay, yeah, we'll go ahead and take that. That's fine. This is what they can do, and I agree with you guys. This is why you need to have a cap in Major League Baseball. The thing is, like, I think the players will continue to reject it because they'll see it. I was talking to Kara about this last night because she was asking me, like, this isn't fun anymore. What can they do to like make this harder on the Dodgers? How can they make this more fair? Alex, she agrees with your take on it. And I was like, do you want me to get into it? How far do you want me to go on this? Because we can have a 20-minute conversation. And she's like, give me the elevator pitch. I was like,
I don't want to listen to you rant for 3 minutes, so just make this 10 seconds.
I was like, basically, the players don't want there to be a cap because they want to have their opportunity to make what Shohei Ohtani makes or to make what Freddie Freeman or Mookie Betts make. Like, they all view themselves as being the next player that's going to get the $50 million deal, and that becomes artificially suppressed based upon a cap. And I can't argue against that. That's true. You will have players that make less than the top players are currently earning on an average annual basis because of a cap, because there's less to spend on an annual basis, and you have to build some kind of a team, right? So it does artificially suppress those salaries. What I said is, like, and I believe this to be true, 70% of the league, if not more than that, is on a minimum salary on any given season. And those guys would see the biggest increase in some kind of a change. So, yeah, maybe Shohei, instead of making $60 million a year, or Soto, instead of making $60 million a year, maybe he makes 40. That's a big cut, don't get me wrong. It's a big change in his salary. But the middle class maybe goes from making $5 million a year to 10. The lower class goes from making $1 million a year to $3 million a year. And those are the guys that churn through quicker than anybody in Major League Baseball. And so they're actually making real money now, instead of it being, you got into the league, half of it went to taxes, another quarter went to your 3% went to your agent, all of these different fees that are associated with it, right? So I think it can be good for most players, but because the leadership is in these positions that make the big bucks, they're never going to argue in favor of it. So that's my, if you want to call it an elevator pitch, as to why the cap actually does make sense for players. They're the ones that should be arguing for this, strangely. It'll never happen because of the leadership that's in place and because they view it as a negative, no questions asked. You can't possibly push back against it. They are the Mike Shildt of these negotiations.
I don't think he had to do that.
Yeah.
You know?
Come on, man. We know you're upset with him about something that happened 4 years ago, but get over it.
Yeah, seriously.
Also, more Mike Shildt talk coming up on 101 ESPN.
In the 1 o'clock hour.
Of course, why not?
314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line. Questions, or excuse me, more likely to happen coming up next. Ricky Scoops is back.
Pretty Ricky, hit me with it.
For those that aren't familiar, a little background real quick. Pretty Ricky on Twitter is some random guy. Nobody knows who this is.
I hope it's the rapper.
Just some random dude that's tweeting out a bunch of news. He was the first one that had the Micah Parsons trade.
I think it's Roger Goodell.
I have no idea who it is or why he's doing this, but hey, it's great. He's tweeted out a few updates today on the trade deadline. According to Pretty Ricky on Twitter.
Oh, God.
Jacoby Myers, wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders, is expected to be traded at some point prior to the deadline. Quote, won't be in silver and black much longer.
Buffalo Bills.
That would make a lot of sense. He's an inside receiver, though, slot receiver. That's more of what they have.
Why not get more of them?
Change much for you?
Yeah, you need an outside option. Devontae Adams is where they messed up. Should have got that guy.
The Patriots have been on the phone with teams and are aggressively looking to trade for a wide receiver prior to the deadline. Drake may be getting another weapon. And then finally, sounds like the Saints are open to trading Chris Olave. They were not willing to move him in the offseason, but that stance has since changed, and the team is now willing to listen on trade calls.
That's Buffalo.
Another one from Pretty Ricky.
Come on, Ricky.
The Dolphins are actively shopping Jalen Phillips, named to watch as the deadline approaches. Sounds like Miami is ready to move him. Teams are also calling about Chubb, Waddle, and Achane. Does not mention if they are actually interested in moving any of those players, but it sounds like there's a potential fire sale.
Going back to the Saints real quick, if they're going to trade Olave, you trade Kamara, right?
He's got a no-trade clause.
Oh, does he?
There was a report the other day that he does not want to go anywhere.
Wow. Okay. I was going to say, because I saw somebody, and this was just speculation, I don't know if it was by a writer or a fan, somebody said, that should be something that the Chiefs look at. If Kamara becomes available, you go after that. But it makes sense, I guess. Although it doesn't.
Breece Hall is the top running back that's available.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that makes zero sense, Kamara. Wouldn't you like to go somewhere where you could win?
He likes living in New Orleans. He just really
You could
loves
still live
the
there in
city,
the offseason, man.
I don't know. All right, 314-399-9646 is the Air Comfort Service text line for more likely to happen. You guys give us a scenario. We will tell you which one is more likely here on BK and Ferrario. Let's start out with this one. I'll go to the college football ranks. More likely to win this weekend. Auburn at home against Mizzou or Vandy at home against LSU?
Vandy at home against LSU. And this isn't like me being a Mizzou honk. It's more so like LSU really hasn't done anything to impress me this year. And I mean, Pavia has been incredible. So I would say Vandy.
I would too. LSU turns the football over. The defense is good. The offense has been bad. And I can see where the offense loses them football game.
I'm going Vandy as well. I think they're just better than Auburn. Auburn feels like a sinking ship. If Mizzou scores the first two, if they put up the first two scores in that game, I think Auburn is ready to lie over. So a big start to that game. I know we always make fun of this, got to get off to a hot start. If ever there was a game, this is the one.
Number one key to the game, right? Make sure they get off to a hot start.
100%.
Guys, more likely to happen. Jordan Bennington finishes career with the St. Louis Blues or is traded this offseason?
Finishes his career with the Blues. They don't have another option for them in the system right now. They just lost Colton Ellis.
Yeah, he ain't wrong there. Man, like that, I really wonder if they wouldn't have lost Colton Ellis if Bennington's name would have been out there this offseason. And everybody knows I'm the biggest Bennington honk, but Joel Hofer is going to get more reps this year. And both their contracts come up at the same time. And if you don't have anybody in your system behind Joel Hofer and Jordan Bennington, you might have to lock him up. And how many more years does Bennington have to just be the secondary piece and they keep the even split moving forward? So I think I'd say Bennington finishes his career.
I would say he finishes it here in St. Louis as well because he lost Ellis. Ellis was still here. It would change probably my calculus a little bit.
T-Bone?
Guys, more likely to play more minutes with Thomas and Booch this season. Jake Neighbors or Jimmy Snuggerud?
I will say eventually they land on Jimmy Snuggerud as still being that guy, but I have less confidence in that take today than I did a week ago.
Yeah, I'll say Neighbors because they need to have somebody who can play in front of the net more so than Snuggerud. But I really wonder if at some point we see Holloway move up there and then Snuggerud moves up to play with Jordan Kyrou and they see what that looks like. It's still a work in progress in terms of tinkering with those lines just to see. But for right now, I think it's going to be Neighbors. And at the end of the season, I think your 1-2 punch might be more Neighbors than Jimmy Snuggerud.
I would actually lean towards Neighbors now. And I said Snuggie at the beginning of the year. And again, I'm kind of with BK. I hold the right to be wrong on this.
We all do.
Because I kind of like him having the mismatch on the third pair. And it takes away some of the responsibilities of having to be so defensively responsible. And that's not to say he's a bad defensive forward. I think he will become a pretty good defensive forward. He's got great hockey sense. I just like the fact that he can really be a mismatch against other third lines or fourth lines when he's going up against the opponent.
Here's a line, and this is just me totally spitballing here, but a line combo that I'd really like to see at some point. Holloway with Thomas and Snuggerud, Neighbors with Shen and Kyrou, and then Buchnevich with Pius Suter and Nick Bukestad. And the only reason I say that is because I think Pius Suter opens up a lot more scoring opportunities for Buchnevich because he's a net front centerman. And then you put Neighbors with a Jordan Kyrou. Now, it doesn't benefit Kyrou because Kyrou likes to play with speed off the transition. But can he find openings out there? But the one that I'm sneakily kind of wondering about is 81 and 21 with 18.
He's Alex, this T-Bone on BK. Chris Kerber, the voice of the Blues, joins us next year on 101 ESPN.
Hey, I don't know if MoDOT knows something that I don't, but I'm driving around today, and I'm seeing signs along the highway that said, give snowplows room to work. Now, I don't know if we're quite to winter yet, but I know a couple nights have gotten cooler. Maybe you've turned your furnace on at your house. Well, if you have, make sure you've also gone online to classicaircare.com and booked an appointment to make sure that furnace is ready to go. Get a maintenance check on it. Do one in the spring, do one in the fall. Make sure that you know that it's ready for the winter. Classic Air Care has you covered. Maintenance plans that make sure that you don't have to even worry about it. It's out of sight, out of mind. And you also get prioritization when it comes to setting an appointment. At the same time, they've got a maintenance deal for you to make sure that your unit is ready to go for the fall. Here's one of the things they do. They check the heat right at the unit, and then they check the temperature where it comes out in one of the farthest vents from the unit. And they want to make sure that the temperature variance is where it needs to be. If it's not, that may mean that you have a problem. We'll get Classic Hire Care out there to check into it. You can book appointments online. They got a 4.8 Google rating because their customer service is that good. There's 100 trucks on the road every day, and they can typically get to you within 24 hours. Classic Hire Care, they've been making people comfortable since 1926.
Tanner Hendrickson here with a Sports Center update driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. Blues back in action tonight as they host the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario, and then puck drop at 8:30 with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And the voice of the Blues, Chris Kerber, joins us next here on BK and Ferrario. The Sports Center update was driven by Johnny Londoff Chevrolet and Johnny Londoff Autoplex. See him at Londoff.com. Chevy, together we drive. Are you kidding me?
Blues back in action tonight against the Chicago Blackhawks here in St. Louis. It is a late one, 8:30 puck drop. You'll be able to hear it right here in your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN, alongside Alex and T-Bone. I'm BK. Chris Kerber is the voice of the Blues. He joins us now as he does each and every Wednesday here on the show. Kerbs, how's it going, man?
Doing good, BK. How are you?
Doing very well. Let's start with the goalie controversy that's really taken form here in the first 4 games of the regular season, Kerbs. I'm kidding. But it sounds like Joel Hofer is going to get the start in net tonight against Chicago. I personally, I'll just say this, full disclosure, I like the 50-50 split early in the season. What do you make of it?
I think it makes sense. I think you've got a big game coming up against Dallas, and Jordan Binnington has been good in his career against Dallas on Saturday. Now, that's not saying that you're looking ahead, because I think Joel Hofer's developed into that, 1A scenario where you've got a 1 and a 1A. That question has been posed to Jim Montgomery several times now in media scrums that I've been around. And in each time, he has said, I don't think we're expecting 50-50 over the course of the year. He says, but he does expect Hofer to get a few more starts. And look, guys, I'm going to relate it to last year. I think there are those organizationally that last year would have liked to have seen maybe a more balanced start with the goaltenders at the beginning of the year, so you have a fresher guy at the end of the year. And keep in mind, this is a team that is anticipating that Binnington will get some pretty good work done over in Italy in the Olympics, right? So, that being said, when you've got a team coming in, look, the Blackhawks have been competitive. There's scenarios in the Blackhawks 4 games where you go, they could be 4-0 if a couple of bounces had gone their way. But I think this one makes sense. Benner played the last game. You traveled in, and you got in at 3 a.m. the other night on Monday night. So I think that being the case, I think this is – but I'll bet you, too, that when you talk to them, they go, no, this is kind of how they planned and charted it out.
Well, other than the goalie controversy, the other thing that we're hearing from a lot of Blues fans, Curbs, is Logan Mailloux. It's already a lost trade. Zach Bolduc's doing a lot of success in Montreal, and Logan Mailloux's hit the struggle bus already early on.
Yeah, Randy A trade all over again.
Yeah, there's just flashbacks on that one as well.
You know what? So I'm going to be careful when I say this because I am not suggesting or putting this kind of pressure on Logan Mailloux in any way or suggesting he's this player, but does anybody remember Chris Pronger?
Who?
Exactly.
The guy on the Amazon broadcast?
Yeah. You traded one of the most popular players in the franchise for a young defenseman, and his first year in St. Louis, he'll tell you, was just brutal the way fans were booing, all this other stuff was going on. And look how things turned out. The Blues traded a player that they knew was ready to become a good NHL player in Zach Bolduc. But they traded him for somebody that they think can grow into a top 4 defenseman role, become part of a young core at the right age that had only played a total of 8 NHL games. Right? Take a breather, relax a little bit. This one's going to have to pan itself out a little bit. The challenge is you are looking at a young defenseman that's only played now 11 National Hockey League games, right? So there's going to be some games where his minutes are down to 12. But, we talk to the coaches. At some point, you just got to get out there for 15 minutes a game, and you got to do the old 4-H. You got to learn by doing, and you got to make mistakes, and you got to be coached. And then what they've already done, they've already made, because they had 2 young defensemen. Don't forget, Tyler Tucker's still a young, experience-wise defenseman in the NHL, right? And frankly, Broberg's just crossed. He's just over 100 games played, right? So put all that in there, and you've got 3 pretty young defensemen with 3 grizzled veteran defensemen, and it's really just one of those scenarios that you got to give it time. So I love the passion. That's the fun part, but I think maybe they should just pump the brakes on that a little bit.
Just a little.
We're talking to Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, here on 101 ESPN. Curbs, we didn't make too much of it the other day, but I've really enjoyed watching Pius Suter early on so far this season. I thought he would be a good addition. I didn't know totally what to expect, though, because of the breakout last year and how much of that was real. He does all of the little things. It's that touch pass to Jimmy Snuggerud on the goal. It's the deflection in front of the net. I've just really enjoyed his game. I'm curious, is there anybody like that for you, whether it's Suter or somebody else, that stood out to you early on so far this year with something that they're doing on the ice?
Well, I think, focusing on Suter there, BK, I remember listening to you guys, and you got to give some props here to Alex. Alex Ferrario was talking about, the Blues potentially, how this kid could be a fit. And even at the time, I went, I don't know about that. But they went out and they signed him. And, look, we talked to Alexander Steen and Doug Armstrong and Tim Taylor, about what it was about him. And the one thing they talked about, all 3 of them, have talked about his hockey IQ, his sense of where to be on the puck. And you know what? And they relate it to Oscar Sundqvist. You can go look at a bunch of analytics and things, and the one thing about Oscar Sundqvist is he seems to take the right approach on the puck, and they can rely on him in the defensive end. And what they're really trying to say is that he doesn't cheat for offense, right? He anticipates, but he doesn't cheat. He anticipates where that puck is going to go. So rather than being in some spot, he's going to defer to the defensive side and be in a really good spot, which then allows him to be in a great spot for transition and lead to offense. And they knew that they needed to improve the penalty kill. They brought in a smart player. They obviously track something on the faceoffs that they like and they know they can coach. And it bought them a 2-year window to continue to grow somebody like a Dvorsky right now. So he's been a real smooth addition here, and frankly, I like the way that so far they've been playing him in that third-line role because it's given him some favorable matchups, and his skill matches it.
Is that their greatest strength? Right? And I know we're 3 games in, Curbs, but is that their greatest strength so far, having 4 solid lines? Because that game against Vancouver looked like Jim Montgomery trusted every line that was out there.
Well, yeah, you know what? Is that their biggest strength? No, I think their biggest strength is goaltending. And then I think, I like the top 4 defense the way it's set up. There's a gap with that inexperience, but I guess, yeah. Our good strength of this team is their skill down the middle. Is how I think you can look at that and refer to that, Alex. I still think that it's going to take this team a little bit of time to really figure out what is the true identity, because you can have a bunch of players returning from one season to the next, and that second season's culture, that next season's culture, is still different than the first one, just because of new players. Doug referred to that, for example, like, okay, the Blues had a good run. Well, Case Suter wasn't there for that. Bugstad wasn't there for that. Mayu wasn't there for that. And they've got to become part of this group, and this group has to bring guys like that in. So I think they're good down the middle. The signings gave them some real depth, especially when Sundqvist is back and able to play. We have to see what happens with Alexei Toropchenko when he gets healthy and back in there on a regular basis. Does that line kind of develop the identity of the team like the WTF line did last year? That kind of thing. So, but that really, in my opinion, that just comes with more time.
Chris Kerber is the voice of the Blues. He's joining us here on 101 ESPN for just another minute or so. Kerbs, I promise we're not going to ask about this every single week when you join us here on the show. However, last time that we talked, you had not done the simulcast yet. Now you've done a few of these, including both at home and on the road. Out of curiosity, how do you feel like it's gone thus far, and have there been any adjustments? I know for us, when we do this show with me and Alex and T-Bone, like, the show that we did day one is not the show that we did month two, which is not the show that we've done, year 5. So how's it gone thus far for you and Joey in that regard?
Wow, listen, I think it's gone really well. Now we're radio only tonight with TNT doing the game. But yeah, I think it's gone real well. There's adjustments in preparation and how you prepare, knowing you've got more pictures and graphics than radio. And so I guess your advanced scouting and advanced prep is done a little bit earlier. There's some things behind the scenes like that. I think on the air, Joe and I are finding a stride. I've had some friends that, I've told, hey, do me a favor. I want you to listen to the game. Don't turn on the TV. Just listen to the game, and I want you to tell me what you think. And so far the response has been, I'm really not noticing much of a difference. I think, my job, is to be respectful of both, understand, that there's both. And, I still believe this, guys. I know you've heard me say that. I went back and I watched, I think it was game 3 of the 97 Stanley Cup final, and the Detroit Red Wings are playing that one, and against Philadelphia, I think it was. And Gary Thorne was on the call, and then this is a TV call, right? And I just hit an open tab on my computer, so I couldn't see the TV, and I was just listening to Gary Thorne do it. And man, if I was listening to that on the radio, I think I'd be just as thrilled, because Gary Thorne was just freaking awesome, right? So, and for some of the younger fans out there, Google some of like YouTube some of Gary Thorne's hockey calls. They're unbelievable, right? So I think it's going really well, and we've got great, amazing support. Tim Pabst has been producing and been part of Blues broadcast since, I think 1995, right? I mean, there's so many great things like that. And Phil Malika joined the team in 2001. So from a director-producer standpoint, we've got camera people in St. Louis that have been doing this for 30-something years. We got a great support group, and so hopefully fans are entertained. I mean, I know when Joey was talking about Gilroy, California being the garlic capital of the world, there's some unique things we can learn in the process, too. We're having some fun with it.
Hey, Kerbs, enjoy the time, man. Thanks so much for hopping on with us today. Enjoy the game tonight, being on the radio call of things. People can hear that right here on 101 ESPN, a late one. Pre-game coverage with Alex beginning at 7:30. Puck drop at approximately 8:30 on 101 ESPN. We'll talk with you again next week, Kerbs.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Thanks. Have a great week.
Thanks, Kerbs. It's Chris Kerber, voice of the Blues, joining us as he does each and every Wednesday on BK and Ferrario.
Yeah, more like 8:52 puck drop. So,
but listen
accordingly
right here on 101 ESPN. If you just start listening, just leave it here, and then up until 8-something.
Don't go away at 6 o'clock, because you'll hear the new episode of the Last Minute Blues podcast, and then we've got pregame for you starting at 7:30.
What more could you ask for, really?
A hockey day. Here on 101
Where
ESPN.
can people find that Last Minute Blues podcast?
It's live up on our YouTube channel at 101 ESPN STL, or, BK, wherever you get your podcasts from. Maybe you're an Apple guy or a Spotify guy. Just Type in Last Minute Blues podcast.
Okay. Can I, so I can watch it on YouTube?
You can watch us on YouTube. And let me say, we're dapper gentlemen.
Last Minute Blues podcast.
Wherever you get your podcast. I prefer you to head over to the 101 ESPN website or the easy-to-use 101 ESPN app, which is brought to you by Dobbs Tire and Auto Centers.
Cha-ching. And what can they expect when they go over there to listen to that?
Well, first of all, shenanigans, because that's what we're full of on Last Minute Blues podcast. But we answer some listener emails because we get a lot of emails all the time for how popular we are. We talk a lot about how people need to chill the bleep out on Logan Mayu. So a little aggressive on that front.
Sure, yell at fans. That's always popular.
No, we don't yell. We talk to you. It's like a therapy session like we do here in BK and Ferrario. Yeah. We talk about how Kyrou and Holloway are on pace for 0 goals through 82 games.
That is problematic.
Very concerning there. And just a couple of other nuggets that stand out to us. So make sure you check that out, guys.
Looking forward to that.
A lot of great stuff.
New edition of the Redbird Report will be posting tomorrow as well. YouTube.com/101ESPN-STL. I'm going to go out on a limb and say we'll probably talk about Mike Shildt in that one. All right, coming up in about 15 minutes. This is as much of a must-win game for Mizzou as USC was for Illinois. We'll get into that coming up at 1 o'clock. Junk Jorska next here on 101 ESPN. Let's dive into the junk drawer. I've got a quick question for you, Alex. You had a couple of kiddos that have already done this. T-Bone, if you want to answer it, I guess you can dive into this as well. At one point, you probably were potty trained too. What are we getting into here?
Oh, boy. You're asking the wrong person because I don't have boys.
Dude, Luca is now interested in, so yesterday I pick him up from daycare. And the first thing that the teacher says to me is she says, hey, I don't know if he does this at home. And immediately, this is a parent. Your mind goes to, oh, my God, what did he do? What happened? She's like, hey, he really wanted to go to the potty today. So with some of the bigger kids, we took him and he explored. And
dude, that's great because he's what? A little over 1?
A little over 2, yeah.
Oh, a little over 2. Okay, yes, you're right in the prime time of it.
So he had tried it a couple of nights ago at our house as well. He's not actually doing anything, but he's sitting up there, he's like, ha, I'm going potty.
That's all that matters.
So the next step is where it gets interesting.
Yeah, the next step. So, and again, you're different because you've got a boy. I've only worked with girls, and there's a little bit more equipment that they work with than what I work with. But I mean, I'll tell you the one thing that we did, and this Moms on Call thing that Katie and I pay attention to and read and do a podcast with. It's been really helpful. But we basically dedicated, once we saw that the interest was there, we dedicated an entire weekend where we just worked with her. Like we scheduled it. It was Labor Day weekend when Adelaide turned 3, and Katie took Emma out. They went and played for the day, and then the entire day Adelaide was just naked all day in the house. And so what we did was I watched her like a hawk. So everything she did, it was like every 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. You got to go potty? If you got to go potty, here's the potty. And we just repetitiveness. And after that first day, she figured it out. And it was like, oh, this is great. And then it was the next step of putting underwear on. And then the next step of putting clothes on. And then you take trips out. I mean, it wasn't until probably 6 months, maybe 9 months ago that Adelaide was fully potty trained. Like, she still has accidents. Sure. So, I mean, this is not like a snap your fingers and he's going to be potty trained. It's going to be like a couple of years worth of working on it.
Somebody said, put Cheerios in the toilet. Tell Luca to sink them.
Yeah.
That is really funny.
I mean, again, that's something that I haven't dealt with.
That's what my parents did.
Really?
Yeah. It was either Cheerio or like an M&M, something like that.
That's amazing.
Ours is just making sure, because now we're doing it with Emma, and Emma's got, like, she's notorious for wanting to sit sideways on the potty so she can talk to people.
Sure, yeah.
And I'm like, baby, you are peeing all over the floor. Turn when you're sitting there.
Yep. So that is what the next, 6 months are going to look like.
Dude, let me tell you, though.
We are officially wading into those waters.
Now, we have 3 of them, so it's like we'd get out of one, and then the next one would be in it. But, like, the moment we found out that we didn't have to buy diapers anymore, oh, my God. God, that was such a good feeling.
Yeah, we're excited. I'm looking forward to it. It's just getting there.
Let me tell you, I know that you and Kara are in the decision making of if you want to do another child, you better do it fast, because the moment Luca gets out of diapers and starts going potty,
don't want to go back to it.
Game over.
Somebody on the text line said, "BK, this book helped us potty train our 2-year-old boy the month of September. Oh crap, potty training. Everything modern parents need to know to do it right." We'll do it once and do it right. Dude, I'll go ahead and get that right now on Amazon.
The other thing that we did was the entire first day, I just had episodes of our favorite shows that talked about potty. So it was Bear in the Big Blue House. It was Daniel Tiger. It was Bluey. It was just nonstop potty. And Miss Rachel's got a video on it now that Emma loves. So swarm them with potty stuff, because at some point they'll get it.
We had a couple of people that texted in saying, go to the Dollar Tree, buy a bunch of toys, give him a toy when he goes. Somebody else said, I spent $100 on toys because I would either buy those or spend $100 on diapers. If they use the potty, they got a toy. And slowly just tapered off the toys, ended up working like a charm. All right, some good advice from the text line. Coming up in 15 minutes, we're going to talk to Darren Pang, Turner Sports NHL analyst, and, Darren Pang. So we'll get into that. We'll get into some Blues hockey with Panger prior to tonight's Blues game, which is on TNT. He joins us in about 15 minutes. But next, this is as much of a must-win game for Mizzou as USC was for Illinois. What does it mean in the big picture? We'll talk about it next here on 101 ESPN. All right, so a couple of weeks ago, Illinois had a devastating loss against Indiana.
Devastating. Oh,
we get it.
Embarrassing.
I think that also applies.
Oh, God, 53 points.
And at the end of it, we said, if they don't beat USC, this season is basically over. You're not beating Ohio State. We all knew going in. That was not going to be a win on their schedule. It was a scheduled loss. So if you lose to USC, you've already got 3 by the time you finish that Ohio State game. Season's over for all intents and purposes. I mean, you could still go 9-3 by Illinois standards. That's a good season, but it's not what the goal was. T-Bone said it out at the beginning of the year. The goal is playoff or bust, and that would effectively put you into the bust category. Now, you may still not be able to get into the playoff because 10-2 with that loss at Indiana on your resume might be too much to overcome. It's possible this season, but at least you've got a shot by taking care of business down the stretch. Illinois did what they needed to do against USC. It wasn't always pretty, but they got the win, and that's all that matters in modern college football. You get a win by 1 or you get a win by 50, it all counts as a victory. The same's true for Missouri this weekend. They're going on the road. It's the first time they've had a true test on the road so far this season. Now, technically, they did go to Lindenwood in fall camp, so that was a road scrimmage. Eli Drinkwitz.
Did they do well?
First of all, you need to chill on the Lindenwood slander, sir.
Hey, they're my neighbors, man.
But you're like the neighbors that you don't really like.
Drinkwitz made mention of this earlier in the week where he's like, hey, it's not the first time we've gone on a road trip with this group.
Hey.
Okay, I'll give you the credit where it's due.
You better fear the roar.
I'm not giving you credit for that.
You better fear the roar is all I'm saying.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, at Auburn, that stadium, 100,000 fans, probably a slightly different atmosphere than what they saw in a, scrimmage against Lindenwood in August. Either way.
Just don't like the way you say it, man.
You have to get it done.
Yeah.
This is an Auburn team which just saw one of its captains leave the team. And then the coach comes out and says, he didn't meet our standards. And then all of the players are now tweeting out and sending out Instagram posts saying how they're supportive of this former captain of the team. It's not a great look for anybody. Their quarterback stinks. Their defense is really freaking good. And they've got some awesome weapons on the outside. This is a team that absolutely can beat you. And the Vegas line is reflective of that, where they're favored by 1.5 in this game right now. This is supposed to be a very close game. Mizzou is, by the way. Alex, what are you anticipating? We're in the very early portion of previewing this matchup, but what are you anticipating on Saturday between Mizzou and Auburn?
Honestly, I don't know how to read it now because I was so confident in that Alabama game that I'm just kind of looking at it a little differently now, and I'm also trying not to be like a Mizzou homer here. I'm anticipating it being tight. Like, I'm not expecting Mizzou to go out there and just blow Auburn out of the water. But I am expecting them to come out a little bit more pissed off as to how that Alabama ended, and, I'm specifically watching Bo Prabula. Because I think this is going to be a Bo Prabula type of game for how that one ended in terms of a couple of passes that I'm sure he would like back that turned out to be the reason they lost that game. This feels like if Mizzou wins, it's because Prabula puts himself back into the narrative rather than that Alabama loss.
Yeah, I find this game very hard to judge now because of the stuff that you just mentioned with Auburn. Because it definitely feels like a give-up game from Auburn, doesn't it? Where all this stuff has come out where the coach says, hey, we got rid of the captain because he didn't meet our standards. The players say, whoa, coach, hold on. And then they give up on him, and all of a sudden Mizzou rolls in town, blows him out. Hugh Freeze is fired. Eli Drinkwitz is the head coach there at the offseason. But we'll get to that point.
How dare you?
You're the one who keeps bringing it up as an enticing
it's Wednesday.
job.
That was a Monday, Tuesday conversation.
He's the one who kept bringing up the Auburn job.
What is with you?
But if this plays out like Auburn does show up and is still playing for Hugh Freeze, defense is going to make it hard on the Tigers because I expect them to do the same thing that I brought up as my worry point in the Alabama game, where they slow down the run enough and they force Prabula to beat them through the air. And that's why I agree with Alex. I think he's the Tiger with the most pressure on him this game because we knew about the secondary having issues because it had been talked about after the Kansas game. We had talked for the first 5 weeks of Prabula being this good quarterback, great quarterback. He's the guy, him and Hardy are the reason Mizzou can be in the playoff conversation. And then you saw him against Alabama and went, oh, wait a minute. He might have a ceiling, a cap against him to where he can lift the program. If he's going to change that narrative, he's got to play well on the road at Auburn in his first true road test.
So Auburn's offense is struggling. We all know that. They've gone up against Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia over the last few weeks. It's no surprise that they've struggled against those three teams. Have you seen what they did, though, this season against South Alabama?
If you think I'm watching a South Alabama game with Auburn, you are just, what is wrong with you, man?
The reason that I bring this up is
I didn't know they
because
played South Alabama.
I didn't even know South Alabama had a football team.
It was the game before Oklahoma, Texas A&M, and Georgia. They do have a football team. Their previous head coach is now the defensive coordinator at Alabama. Their previous defensive coordinator is actually now Missouri's defensive coordinator.
I knew that.
The knowledge you have on South Alabama is the knowledge I have on the American Hockey League. So when you want to talk AHL hockey, let me know.
So Auburn against South Alabama, who does very much have a football team. They were 1-2 at the time. Auburn put up 330 total yards and 140 yards through the air. The reason I bring this up, this offense isn't just bad against the really great defenses. Everybody holds them down, man. They haven't been able to do much of anything against any of their opponents this season. They had a decent running game against Baylor. That's pretty much it, man. So this is a game Missouri should win. This is a game Missouri should handle business against Auburn. The fact that it's on the road gives me a little bit of pause because it's their first true road test of the 2025 season. But other than that, when I just look at this matchup-wise, I don't feel the way I did last week against Alabama. Bama had a clear and decided advantage. They've got a really good quarterback and great weapons, and it's going up against a less than stellar secondary for Mizzou. That is strength on weakness. Whereas Missouri's running game going up against that defense was strength on strength. This week, it is weakness against weakness on Auburn's side offensively. So I don't know how they score against this Missouri defense with any level of consistency. I think Mizzou does win this game by 7+. So I have a little bit of confidence. The only thing that's giving me any kind of pause there is the fact that it's on the road. If this was at home, I think Mizzou wins by 2 touchdowns. And I think Auburn is ready to go and fire this head coach. I think all the players are ready for the head coach to be fired as well. Coming up next, we're going to catch up with Darren Pang, NHL analyst for TNT. He joins us here on BK and Ferrario. Always great to have the opportunity to catch up with Darren Pang. He joins us via the Callier and Thompson hotline. He'll be on the call tonight for TNT's call between the Blues and the Blackhawks here in St. Louis. It's a late one. 8:30 is the scheduled puck drop. You know, it could be pushed back just a little bit from there. Panger, we appreciate the time as always. How you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. It's great to be back in the city of St. Louis, and saw the grandkids last night, and played a little golf yesterday at Meadowbrook Country Club with the boys. So all good. Now just finished up at the rink and ready to get myself ready to go here. I got Brendan Burke and Jody Shelley alongside on TNT. So we got a great group here. And other than the time, which we all know is a tough one, but trust me, we get more heat from anybody. The players look at us, and everybody asks us the same question. We're like, that's way above my pay grade, I'll tell you that.
We just show up and we talk hockey. That's what we do. Panger, I'm always curious, when you come back to St. Louis, how do you get everything in what, like a 24, 36-hour window?
You know me. I try to go 24/7, just jam it all in. Took an early flight yesterday. The first one was canceled. Hopped on a second one. Got to the club, played with Robert Bortuzzo yesterday. Always great to see Bortzy and the former referee Tim Peel and Tyler Rash. So we were over at Meadowbrook, which I still belong to. So got that in. Grandkids met us at the country club right after that. And then we went out for a little bite to eat. And then I woke up to a five and almost a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old turning on the lights and jumping on my bed. It was great.
It's the best. Nothing better.
Yeah, that's our life right now, Panger. We got a 4 and a 3-year-old that love to wake up at 6 and make sure mommy and daddy knows that it's time to get up.
I've got a 2-year-old at home, right. Panger, and he just says, "Mommy, mommy," and then we get the day started that way. Let's get into the hockey for tonight. I just want to get your kind of 10,000-foot view on the St. Louis Blues, what we've been able to see from them so far this year, and the changes that they've made to this roster. What were your expectations coming in, Panger?
Oh, well, I think what they did last year to get into the playoffs was admirable. It really was. I mean, at one point there, it looked like Army was entertaining, maybe a big move there, and we all know that, Schen's name was kind of out there, and it was like, whoa. I mean, you're taking a big part of the heart and the soul and the character, but I think the team was challenged, and I think there was a method to the madness of Army for that. And as it turns out, they rallied for one another, and they didn't make a trade other than the Keller trade, earlier, which worked out to be just a fantastic trade. And adding Jimmy Snuggerud from college, but by and large, making the playoffs on their own right was really impressive. And honestly, because I can't remember which games I did of that series against Winnipeg, but when a couple of players look back at what they did in the final minute, that's a win. I mean, you're upsetting the best team in hockey last year, and instead it turned around in a negative fashion. But that was a heck of a series, and I thought it was the most entertaining, physical, hard-nosed series of the entire bunch last year. So now going to this year, can you remanufacture that type of intent? No, it's really difficult to do that. So I watched the home opener. I always feel bad for the home team when they don't play well in the opener because the fans are expecting something. Everybody's coming out. It's a sold-out venue, and then it goes to a bit of a fizzle. And that happened around the league in game one to many teams. And so Detroit was the other team, high expectations, and they just dropped it. And but to rally with the win in Calgary because of Hofer, and then to win in Vancouver 5-2 or whatever it was with the empty net goal. I mean, I think they're on their way now. It's a good hockey club. It's a playoff hockey team for me. It's got good foundation, good culture, and great character.
Panger, how impressed are you with what Doug Armstrong has done to transition this roster over the last few years? I mean, we talked a few years ago about kind of how stuck they were with some of the defensemen. They bring in Broberg, Holloway, and then sign Suter and Bukestad this offseason. So, I mean, a complete 180 of where this roster was up until today.
Yeah, no, you are right about that. And making it, a deal with, Zach Bolduc's going to be a good player for Montreal, but, getting a guy like Logan Mayu as right-hand shot, you're looking at the future. How many more years does, Justin Falk and Parayko, or they're not on their back nine by any stretch of the imagination, but you want to make sure that you got a plan in place. And I thought he identified something depth-wise that was necessary, getting Fowler and then re-signing him to that deal. And, we've watched Tyler Tucker kind of grow up and mature, and he's willing to drop the mitts as he did. I think that was the game in Calgary, and so all in all, I think the retooling on the fly is a little bit of a reminder of maybe what Washington did, or maybe Washington kind of copied Army, I think that's the only way to do it, because I'm going to tell you, here in Chicago, and being there, it's not easy to rebuild. I mean, look at Detroit, look at Buffalo. Ottawa's finally gotten over the hump. It is not easy to say, okay, we're just going to move all the assets, we're going to get all these high draft picks, and we'll rebuild. Well, rebuild takes 10 years. I mean, so that's no fun either. So I think what he's done is admirable, and he's allowed some of the younger players like Thomas, like Jordan Kyrou. Now it's going to be Snuggerud, Dylan Holloway. I mean, that's the handoff is right there, and you still have good older players that know the values and know what it takes every day, not just on the ice, but off the ice, and then preparing to get on the ice.
Darren Pang is our guest here on 101 ESPN. You'll see him on the call tonight for the Blues versus the Blackhawks on TNT. Panger, I know the answer to this question is certainly not right now, but for a player like Logan Mailloux, who's so young, so inexperienced, he's played like 10 NHL games thus far in his career, how long do you give it before you feel like you have a decent idea of what a young defenseman can be at this level?
Boy, I mean, there's many veteran defensemen that I have great admiration for that will tell you 150 games. Seems like a lot of games, but I mean, 20 games, 15 games, 30 games, that's not enough. 1 year is not enough. Players just don't feel, listen, they get the sweater on, you're excited, you've got this exuberance, it's almost naive enthusiasm, and, and when things are going well, it's fine, it's easy. And then, bang, you get hit in the nose. It always happens. It's inevitable. Everybody gets punched in the nose. I don't mean physically. I just mean that you face adversity. And you make a couple of bad passes, and then you're on the highlight reels, and they're not the good ones. And now you lose your confidence. And so, I mean, you can play 10 years and still have that happen to you. And you have to be able to handle that. So a defenseman, it's the hardest position. To me, it's harder than the goaltender. Maybe the second hardest would be a young centerman, only because there's so much responsibility in the middle of the ice and face-offs. And if you lose a whole bunch of face-offs, you don't have the puck, you're chasing it. But for a young defenseman, I think that's the toughest. So I think you're going to look at Logan, and in 2 years, I think you'll have a better evaluation, a more fair evaluation.
Panger, on the offensive side, a lot was talked about with Dylan Holloway last year and kind of the scene that he jumped into after the offer sheet from Edmonton. We've had the discussion on our show a few times just talking about, nationally how he's viewed. Does Dylan Holloway look like somebody that could jump into that star category in the next couple of years?
That's a very good question. I mean, I've asked... his University of Wisconsin coach at the time was Tony Granato, and I know Tony very well. And if you ask Tony Granato, yes, the answer is yes. I mean, I think everybody knows what he's got and what kind of player he is. And it still just baffles me that he's not an Edmonton Oiler. And it's incredible that Doug Armstrong and his staff put this together and got a player that young, that strong, that good for as little as he gave up. So nationally, last year was a real... it was an eye-opener for a lot of people that didn't follow him, but it wasn't an eye-opener for the people that have seen him a lot. And I'm not saying me because I hadn't, but just obviously talking to guys like Tony Granato and people that know him well, they weren't surprised with what he did last year.
Panger, a couple more I wanted to ask you about, and this one's on the Chicago side. Of course, the Blues taking them on, and you do the TV side of it for the Blackhawks in the regular season. You mentioned just how difficult it is to rebuild. Does it feel like, though, that the Blackhawks are making that turn a little bit to start being a little bit more competitive in the Central?
Yes. Yes, that's a firm yes for me, because for 2 years it's a no. I mean, that's just the reality of it. It was very much a lack of accountability. Really good young players, as we know. I mean, Connor Bedard's a rookie of the year in the NHL. He's a difference maker, but it was a no. And this year, new coaching staff with Jeff Blashill. He brought in a veteran in Mike Vellucci, who spent 5 years with Mike Sullivan and Sidney Crosby in Pittsburgh. Mike Pekka, one of the best two-way forwards the game has seen, a two-time Selke Award winner. They're all on long-term deals. The commitment is there. The team looks different, way different than what I've seen the last 2 years. 100% turnaround. Big, long defensemen. Vlasic 6'6", Crevier 6'8". Sam Rinzel is, maybe at the end of the year he ends up being in the talk for a Calder Trophy. So that's a big difference. And obviously Frank Nazar and Connor Bedard are two young centermen that they're going to have to face Shen and Robert Thomas in this game. That's not an easy task. So I think this will be a great challenge for those two centermen. But the one thing, make no mistake, when fans see Connor Bedard this year versus last year, he is lighter on his feet. He's a more explosive skater. What he did in the offseason was impressive because he looks like a different hockey player.
Hey, Panger, it's always great to be able to catch up with you. Thanks so much for hopping on with us today and what I know has got to be a crazy busy schedule for you as you make your return here tonight to St. Louis. We wish you nothing but the best. Enjoy the game tonight, and we'll talk with you again soon.
Guys, take care.
Thanks so much, Panger.
That's Darren Pang joining us here on 101 ESPN. Certainly appreciate his time as always here on the show. You'll be able to see him on the call over on TNT as they have the game tonight on the television side of things. Alex will have your pregame coverage on the radio side here tonight at 7:30 on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN.
Keep an eye out on Bedard. I know he mentioned it there, and it sounds like the captain obvious thing to say because he's such a highly touted player, but I watched a piece that Panger did in the preseason basically talking about, like, Bedard was very disappointed with himself last year and, like, made it an initiative to kind of raise his game to the next level. And from the little things that I've seen thus far in the early portion of the season, he does look like a different player. So that's going to be, he and that line with Burakovsky are going to be a line to keep an eye on for Blues fans tonight.
They need it. They need him to be
better. It's the only reason you could come out of the rebuild.
All right. Blues back in action tonight. Looking forward to that. Coming up next, we're going to dive into some NFL quick hitters here in BK and Ferrario.
Tim Hendricks Near Day Sports Center update brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling. Blues will be back in action tonight as they take on the Chicago Blackhawks. We'll have pregame coverage starting at 7:30 with Alex Ferrario and puck drop at 8:30 with Chris Kerber and Joey Vitale. And yesterday, Major League Baseball, the Dodgers took down the Brewers to take a 2-0 series lead. Tonight, Game 3, the ALCS between the Blue Jays and Mariners, where the Mariners lead that series 2-0 as it returns to Seattle. The Sports Center update is brought to you by Saliga Heating and Cooling, a Daikin heating and air conditioning dealer.
All right, let's dive into some NFL quick hitters alongside Alex and T-Bone on BK. You guys want to talk a little bit about trade rumors? More specifically, trade speculation.
Well, no, it's pretty Ricky, so I would say trade expectations.
We can get into those. I'll go ahead and pull those up here in just a moment. But CBS Sports put out a piece earlier today on the trades they would like to see at this year's deadline.
Let's play connect the dots. You give me the player, and we'll see if we can guess what CBS said in terms of the team. Because I think I'm spot on with some of these.
Let's do it. Alvin Kamara, where would they like to see him go?
Chiefs.
Yep, that is correct.
Chiefs.
Yep. But it sounds like he is preferring to stay with the New Orleans Saints.
I get it. New Orleans is a good place to play.
Breece Hall, running back for the Jets. Where would they like to see him land?
Ooh, Breece Hall. Let's see. Who needs some help in the running game?
I don't think you'll guess this one. Think injuries. Replacing some injured players.
Chargers.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I like that move.
Yeah,
that would make a lot of sense for them.
Move.
I think they need to add some kind of a running back until Marion Hampton gets back. Kamani Vidal looked good this week, but I don't know how much you trust that to sustain over the long haul. They should bring somebody in.
Yeah.
The Panthers. Damn.
Is that who the Panthers should trade for?
Damn.
You didn't get the game, man.
Olave.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are we guessing here? It's probably a defensive player.
Guess another receiver.
Myers?
Yeah, Jacoby Myers.
Panthers!
2 for 2. Rashid Shaheed of the New Orleans Saints. Where do they want to see him land?
Oh, boy.
Let's see. So
deep threat.
I'll say
receiver.
Either the Bills or the Packers.
Nope, NFC.
NFC deep threat.
Well, the Packers are in the NFC.
Yep,
San Francisco?
Nope. Not a contender. They would like to see him go to the Giants. Makes some sense. I think the Giants adding another receiver. You got a young quarterback built around him. I could get behind that.
I get that one.
Mark Andrews of the Baltimore Ravens, tight end. Where would they like to see him land in the NFC? I'll go ahead and give you that.
NFC. I will say, is this a contending team?
Relatively.
I'll say Seahawks.
Nope.
Rams.
Nope.
We got a tight end.
Washington.
We got a tight end. Washington is the correct answer.
Hurts is pretty old. He's good still, but
he's pretty good for him still.
I don't see them really needing to go to Mark Andrews.
I don't
either.
either.
They've got Ertz. I don't think it's all that different. So I don't know about that one.
Honestly, the Ravens should probably keep him.
Trey Hendrickson, defensive end for the Bengals. This is a fun one. I think this would be a good addition, but they might already be. I'll give it away if I say that, but
might already be out of it. So let's go through this one. Colts.
Nope.
That would be fun.
Add up on more defense.
NFC.
NFC.
So we're all just going
into
Eagles. 49ers. What I was going to say is they might already be too beat up to make this matter.
I think the Eagles would make a lot of sense on that. I mean, your defense has not been very good. You better load up.
Hendrickson would be a great addition for a lot of teams. I think if you're a team that's a contender right now, pass rush is always what you'd like to add. Like if you're the Chiefs, that's the all-in move, man. They won't do it because
the Lions,
they don't do that, but
get that too.
That's the move the Rams made, right? Why did they win the Super Bowl? Not because of the moves they did in the offseason. They traded a first-round pick for Von Miller.
Yeah.
The reason I was thinking AFC is because I was thinking if you're a team and you think how do we beat Patrick Mahomes? The path is not let's sit back in coverage and beat him. It is we got to have a game record that's going to get in his face.
That's why I thought the Colts, because it's like the only team right now that has a shot would be Indy, and like you better load up on defensive players.
And that is what they said about Bradley Chubb.
Oh, that makes
Bradley
sense.
Chubb would be their answer.
I'd rather Hendrickson than Chubb if I'm Indy.
No doubt. I think Chubb has another year left, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe that's part of the conversation there, but both are good players. Both could definitely help. Chubb's got a little more stout up against the run. Trey Hendrickson's like a pure pass rusher at this point in his career, but both would be great additions. Do you guys have a match player / team that immediately comes to mind for you as we're getting closer to the deadline, so this stuff is going to become more and more common in this conversation?
So, I don't have a specific player. You guys might be able to help me on this one, but I'll give you position for a team. I think they need a deep threat in Buffalo. We've talked about that. Now, if Olave becomes an option, or even Shaheed and the Saints that you brought up, I think Buffalo needs to be all over that.
Olave, to me, would be the guy that I would be going after if I'm the Patriots.
Yeah.
I think he would make a ton of sense for them.
Stephon Diggs and Olave, yeah. I mean, either of those would make a ton of sense, but those teams need help in the deep threat market, and then I would be looking, if I'm the Lions, either a pass rush, that's why I brought up Hendrickson, or I would be talking about a secondary piece, and I just don't know who's going to be out there.
Yeah, the piece that I love that, and I don't even know if he gets moved, but he's kind of floating around in the Trader Mill, Acee to the Chiefs. Because he's so explosive, he would help the running back game, and on top of that, he is a great receiver as well, so he can be in the passing game as well. I think he makes all the sense in the world for the Kansas City Chiefs. He's the guy that if they're in the running back market, people will say they should go after Breece Hall, who's fine.
I think Breece Hall is explosive too, though.
I agree, but I think Achane's much more explosive.
I just don't think the Dolphins are going to trade him.
I don't know.
Multiple years of control.
I'd be firing McDaniel
Dolphins,
first.
You're going into a rebuild. I don't understand the point of holding him either.
I think in the offseason, that's probably when you make a move like that.
But
I don't know that you need
the
to.
running back market doesn't really develop much.
But if you're the Dolphins, do you have to be in a rebuild? Yeah, but we saw the Colts turning around with a quarterback change in the offseason. You saw the Vikings do it with Darnold.
Is there anybody other than the Chiefs that you think would make sense for that move?
For Achan?
That's the other thing is you kind of need to get multiple bidders in a trade conversation like that. And
nobody in the NFC.
Who the other team or teams would be.
New England,
the Patriots. Yeah, the Patriots.
They just drafted a guy in the second round.
And you're not going to trade in division
with Trevion Henderson.
Oh, that's true too.
Steelers maybe, but I don't think they would be doing that. Yeah. Colts are fine. Jaguars are fine. Chargers,
they need a running back.
But they just drafted a guy in the second round. This would be a long-term play. I don't know if you need him in Hampton.
Yeah.
Seattle already has multiple guys they like.
Yeah, they got Walker and what's-his-face.
And Charbonneau.
They say they
Charbonneau,
like
thank
him.
you.
I don't know how much they really like him.
I mean, maybe.
Walker's been great.
They value running backs, so that maybe that's the one. I just think the Chiefs are the team. If Achan gets moved, I can't see him going anywhere other than in Kansas City. And I'm not just saying that as the Kansas City guy. I don't know where else he would make sense. And I don't. What would you give up in that scenario? If you're the Chiefs and the Dolphins call and say, hey, we know you're the team that wants him. We know you're the team that needs him. We don't have to trade him right now. But if you'll give us draft pick X, we'll make this move. What is that pick?
I mean, if I'm the Chiefs, I'd do a first-round pick.
Oh, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, too expensive.
But, that guy's there multiple years for you.
I think it's just 2, though.
Yeah, 2 more years, I think. And I'm giving up a first-round pick where I could potentially 2.5. Yeah.
Well, 3 chances at a Super Bowl.
If you end up keeping the selection, I get that guy for 5 years potentially, and it could be a more premium position than a running back, and I could go get a running back in the 3rd round, and I could trade for Breece Hall for a 3rd-round pick, still keep my first rounder. There's just so much opportunity cost there. I think a 3rd.
That's right. I'm thinking it's either a 3rd. If there is somebody else that gets involved, it is a 2nd probably, because it's not 2.5, it's 1.5. Next year's is last year.
A couple people texting in Washington. That could be another team that maybe makes some sense here. They've had so many injuries at the position, and Eckler's kind of the role that
they got Krosky-Mara too, though.
Yeah, he's more of a run between the tackles guy. So with Achan, you could have those two in a combination. Yeah, I could see that. That would make some sense to me.
Yeah,
maybe Dallas if they're trying to build not just for the here and now, but also for the future. I could see that one as well.
But yeah, I think it would probably require, if it's a limited market, I think it's a 3rd. I think if you're really talking expensive, you're talking a second, and then maybe you have to throw in a 7th next year or something like that.
I hope this is a good market. I mean, the Dolphins are tearing this thing apart, as they should. The Jets, Breece Hall's got to go, and there should be a few other pieces that are moved this year at the deadline as well. I would think the Ravens would move a few pieces because you can get assets in return, just reload for 2026. Titans, whatever, spare parts. Those are probably the teams, and then the Saints, that are most willing to move. That's more than you typically get at this point in the season, though. So I would think it should be a pretty decent deadline in the NFL this year compared to normal.
Hopefully it strengthens the AFC a little bit more in terms of you see the Chiefs do it, you see the Bills do something, the Colts maybe do something. Now you can get a little bit more competitive in terms of better teams than what they're at right now, other than just the Chiefs, and that's it.
It's also fun positions. You've got receivers, running backs, and defensive ends that are potentially available. Those impact Super Bowls. A team could really bolster what they're able to do this year in the playoffs based upon what they do at the deadline. And a lot of the time, it's just like,
and it's not
the Chiefs bring in DeAndre Hopkins.
And it's not really guys that are out of their prime. Yeah. Because last year, that's what it was. It was, oh, wow, Cooper's on the move. Hopkins on this. Yeah, but those guys can't move out there as wide receivers.
It'll be interesting. Ricky Scoops, by the way, who is one of our favorites on Twitter.
Pretty Ricky.
He's gone.
He just deleted his account again?
Came back, put out like 3 big potential trade opportunities.
Phoenix from the ashes.
And now he's gone.
Just heads into the night like the Dark Knight himself.
He's Alex Lestebo, and I'm BK. Coming up next, The Rewind here on 101 ESPN.
Start a home stand for the next couple of weeks. You've got beautiful fall weather out, so make it a St. Louis night and head on down to Ted Drew's before you go over to the Blues game. It's off of Chippewa. It's open daily, and it's been a St. Louis tradition since 1929. And it's not just a custard stand. It's 4 generations of families that have been running this business that has been built on quality service and a love for St. Louis. And you see it in the parking lot. You see it in the lines waiting to get that delicious frozen custard. And it's perfect anytime, like this perfect fall evening weather you get. What better way to spend it with family and friends than at Ted Drew's? And while you're out there, mix and match whatever flavors you want. They've got specialty flavors. My wife's personal favorite is the turtle. It's a delicious vanilla custard with hot fudge, caramel, and pecans. And you can get it as a concrete or a sundae. And here's a little secret for you. Buy it in bulk, take it home, put it in the freezer, and have Ted Drew's whenever you want it. Also, walk across the parking lot and check out the Ted Drew's gift shop and the Historical Museum. You can check out St. Louis history pieces, Route 66, and, of course, buy that Ted Drew's apparel and gift card. So get on out there. Enjoy the St. Louis tradition. 96 years and 4 generations of families have been serving St. Louisans that famous frozen custard. Ted Drew's, unmatched quality, unforgettable taste.
If you guys missed anything from today's show, be sure to check it out on the podcast page, 101ESPN.com, and the free 101 ESPN app is where you go to find it. It's all sponsored by
Shaver Door Company.
If you're ready to hit the fairway with the crew with TMA, you can do so. 101 ESPN and Mick Ultra present the Tee It Up with TMA giveaway. One lucky winner and a guest will score a free round of golf with Tim and Jackson of TMA at Fox Run Golf Club. It's your chance to hang out and enjoy a laid-back round with Tim and Jackson. Use promo code SWING, that's SWING, to get entered to win now at 101ESPN.com or on that 101 ESPN mobile app. Must be 21 or older. The Tee It Up with TMA giveaway is courtesy of Mick Ultra Superior Light Beer. All right, Alex, to finish off the show today, we'll go back to our open of the show, which is talking about the Mike Shildt story. If you guys haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend reading it. It's from the San Diego Union-Tribune. Kevin Acee had it. It had some significant and I would call explosive details on Mike Shildt's tenure both in St. Louis and with the Padres and what it was like to coach with him. What it was like to be one of his assistants. Just to kind of recap some of what this is. Apparently, he's a really difficult dude to work for. He's demanding, and some of that can be good, but according to 20 different sources to Kevin Acee, it went too far. And it got to the point where guys were ready to quit or guys were ready to leave the organization to go coach elsewhere because of how difficult Mike Shildt was to work with. He would have tirades at coaches. Apparently, he was great with players, just a really difficult dude to work with. The truth is finally coming out about why Shildt departed here in St. Louis, Alex, why he was let go 4 years ago. What'd you make of the story? What was your overall summary?
I mean, overall summary is... somewhat surprised when you find out that not only is he difficult to work with, but he's just like, he's a problem to work with. Like, it's making other employees around him want to quit their jobs. And as a professional sports team, you can't allow that when the guy that's supposed to be the biggest leader in your clubhouse puts on a happy face around his players, but behind closed doors with his own staff is just berating them. So, I mean, surprised in that sense, but also I think I have gained, with all of this information coming out, a newfound appreciation for John Mozeliak and company. Now, I don't think they handled this properly. I think they should have been a little bit more upfront with their fan base of why they did this rather than just the whole philosophical differences and not speaking on it. I understand lawsuits are involved and things like that, but
we don't know.
Yeah, but at least that's what John Mozeliak referenced on TMA.
He said lawyers could potentially be, yeah.
So
I don't want to get anybody in trouble.
Yeah, I don't know that side of it. I do think the Cardinals probably should have been a little bit more upfront with their fan base because that's where it felt like the trust really started to fall out from Cardinals fans. But, man, after seeing all this, it's an appreciation for John Mozeliak, one on the human side of this, to not just drag Mike Shildt's name through the mud so he could still have a chance in Major League Baseball, but appreciation for the fact that he did not want the Cardinals to go into a worse spot moving forward of having somebody who is not easy to work with and the Cardinals get into a really bad spot. So that was my general takeaway reading through all of this.
And by the way, we did talk to Kevin Acee earlier today. If you want to hear that or see it, you can watch the video as well. YouTube.com/101 ESPN STL is where you can go to see that, or you can hear it on podcast form wherever you get your podcasts. It's up in our feed from today, 101ESPN.com as well. T-Bone, what was your takeaway from the story that posted last night from Kevin Acee?
Yeah, with the details that came out and what happened in San Diego and in St. Louis, I mean, the Cardinals made the right decision at the time of they had to move on from Mike Shildt because they could not afford to have, as it was reported in the story, staffers quit, right? You have to have that support staff around. And, you know, it's a lot easier to replace one guy than it is to replace 20 guys that were tired and fed up of working with Mike Shildt. So the Cardinals had to make the right move. You know, I think they could have handled it better in terms of if they could legally of, hey, we're not just making this move because of philosophical differences. There are things that are going on here in the organization that we have to make this change. Not because it would take the bullets off of the Cardinals because they were going to have the arrows no matter what. But that way it set things up a little bit easier and better for Oli Marmol in the transition to where he's not viewed as much of a puppet master as he was when he got hired.
Yeah, from the 618. Guys, why can San Diego talk about Mike Shildt's problems, but St. Louis couldn't? First of all, we don't know. But second of all, because there's a different... My belief is there's different loyalties here. I believe that St. Louis, and most specifically... John Mozeliak had a level of loyalty to Mike Shildt They worked together for 20 years inside of that organization. And when you do so, you gain some serious relationships, guys. People call it the relationship business for a reason. And Mike Shildt and John Mozeliak had known each other for a really long time. There was a lot of mutual respect among one another. But it was clearly, that he couldn't keep doing that job here in St. Louis. And I think Mo wanted him to have the opportunity to go do it elsewhere. Learn from your mistakes here and go get another opportunity. Change your ways and go get a chance somewhere else. And if all of this had come out 4 years ago, I don't think that he would have had that opportunity because publicly the backlash just potentially would have been too strong. But he was able to work his way into another organization. I would imagine he was good that first year. And then when you get the big job and you're in those stresses again, guys, we all know this. Like, we get into our own lives, and when you have individual stressors that come in, you react differently. It's hard to say how you'll react in any given situation. And for Shildt, it's pretty clear when the pressure starts to elevate, that is when these tirades, apparently, according to the report, that's when they happen. So I feel for all the people that have worked with Mike Shildt over the years. I think Mike Shildt's a pretty good manager, but this is part of managing, and part of leading is being able to get those that are underneath you to buy into your messaging and to believe in you as a leader. So we gave our full thoughts on this in the first hour of the show today. So if you want to hear the extended thoughts, you can check those out over on the podcast page after the show. Again, Kevin Acee also joined us to give his perspective on all of it as well. He's the beat writer that wrote this long, informed story about Mike Shildt. I'm sure the Fast Lane will be talking about this more coming up in the 2 o'clock hour. Alex Ferrario will have pregame coverage for Blues versus Blackhawks tonight starting at 7:30 right here on your home of the Blues, 101 ESPN. For Alex and T-Bone, I'm BK. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. The Fast Lane's coming up next here on 101 ESPN.